Chapter 3596. Chin Wan said to the two of them, "Uncle Chin, you haven't rested since you came to Hong Kong and Macau. Leave this to us. Let Man Yu bring you to eat." "Yeah." Man Yu nodded. "Just now, I came to take over your shift. You didn't want to eat by yourself. You were worried about me. Now that Chief Chin is here, the reinforcements are here too. Uncle Chin, you should go and eat something. When you're old, you have to pay attention to your health." "Hearing you say that," Tai Kong said, "you make it sound like I'm old." "Not old, not old." Man Yu quickly shook her head. "At least you're older than me, right? I eat on time." Kong Tai smiled bitterly. "I'm not that hungry. When I'm old, I feel worse if I eat too much at night." "Hurry up and go," Chin Wan urged. Man Yu pulled Kong Tai and left. "Hurry up. Uncle Chin, you really don't understand romance. Give Chief Chin some time alone. If you talk nonsense again, I'll teach you a lesson." Chin Wan glared at Man Yu. Man Yu wasn't afraid of her. Although Chin Wan was her leader, Chin Wan was more like a big sister to Man Yu. After the two of them left, Chin Wan looked up at the building that Lu Ben Lu was approaching. "Who are the people in this building?" Chin Wan frowned. The buildings in the port area were too close to each other. When she looked up, it felt crowded. "Of course, people are living here," Su Yun said. "Are there people living here?" Chin Wan was a little surprised. The house was too old. Moreover, this was the port area. To her, this was a very prosperous place. Why would people live here? Su Yun nodded. "Do you think that everyone in the port area is rich? They're like us mainland celebrities, casually buying mansions. But such a crowded place is really not suitable for people to live in." Chin Wan still couldn't believe it. Moreover, the house was really too old. If a house of this era was placed in Huaxia, it would probably be demolished, right? Inland people all feel that housing prices are expensive and that it's difficult to buy a house. They cry when they talk about housing. Su Yun smiled. The people in the port area cry even more when they talk about housing. In terms of houses, even if the conditions of the young people in the mainland are very ordinary, they will still discuss the matter of buying a house with their families. At the very least, they will buy a house with 2 bedrooms and a living room of 70 to 80 square meters. As for the young people in the port area, they will basically discuss renting a house and how big a house to rent. Chin Wan obviously did not believe him. "Isn't it popular to buy a house in the port area? If you were born into a rich family, of course you'd buy it." "Su Yun, I'm talking about an average family." Chin Wan quickly understood. Although the port area is a small place, every inch of land is worth an inch of gold. High housing prices are inevitable. There are so many rich people from the mainland who come here to buy houses. However, I think there are differences in policies and concepts between the two places. The port area is just over 1,000 square kilometers and has a population of nearly 10 million. Furthermore, 80% of this area is mountainous terrain with high slopes and uninhabited islands. "There's a serious shortage of land for building," Su Yun said. Chin Wan nodded. It was indeed so. No wonder the buildings were so densely built. In the port area, if one could live in a small community with a garden and a pool like in the mainland, one would be super rich. Ordinary people lived in tube-shaped apartments that no one lived in the mainland, and they were densely packed. If people with trypophobia stood in the area where Chin Wan was and looked up, they would definitely have goosebumps when they saw the densely packed windows. Actually, the housing policy here is socialist. Su Yun. It is said that half of the population in the port area lives in public housing provided by the government. However, only those who meet the strict conditions are eligible to live in it. What about the other half? The other half of the people naturally buy or rent, Su Yun. If you buy a house of 50 square meters in the port area, it is called middle class. Even if it is a house of 50 square meters, the average family will have several people living in it. Bunk beds, floor mats, sliding doors, and other situations are very common. Chin Wan was really surprised. However, when she thought about some scenes in Hong Kong and Macau movies, it seemed to be true. Of course. The products in Hong Kong and Macau investment market are much more abundant than in the mainland. Most of the people in Hong Kong and Macau are more willing to invest their money in the field of investment, such as the stock market, gold, foreign exchange, and other markets. Money makes money, Su Yun said. Qin Wan sighed. The difference in views is too big. It is quite big. But why would Lu Ben Lu come to such a place? Qin Wan could not understand at all. Isn't it fine for him to stay in the hotel? Even if he is here to talk, he doesn't have to come here, right? He must be here to meet someone. Su Yun, maybe it is not convenient to talk in the hotel, or maybe he needs to go somewhere else. Moreover, this place is very messy. There will not be any evidence left. Qin Wan suddenly understood. No wonder. Then how can we go up and see? Go up. Do you know which floor he is on? Do you know how many people live on this floor? You can't find him even if you go up. Su Yun, just wait here obediently. He will come down sooner or later. Then we bet that he might go somewhere else. Qin Wan asked. And, of course. Su Yun. At least I think he must go somewhere else. Think about it. When we were eating in the afternoon, your people did not say anything about him going out. So what? Qin Wan was stunned. That means he might not have eaten. Su Yun, he will at least go to eat when he comes out later. Qin Wan helplessly shook her head. Even if he goes to eat, there is not much point for us to follow. He will go back to the hotel in the end. That is where your thinking is wrong. You can't give up just because you think it is meaningless. Su Yun, maybe a lot of things will happen in a period of time that you think is meaningless. Qin Wan seriously looked at Su Yun. I found that no matter when, as long as I follow you, I can learn something. Then when you go back, you will have to pay tuition. Su Yun, let me tell you, there are many places to eat at night on Temple Street. If Lu Ben Lu comes often, he will definitely have supper. Then let's bet on a meal. Qin Wan, if he goes for supper, then I will treat you to supper too. If he goes back to the hotel directly, then you will treat me, Uncle Qin, and Man Yu to supper. No matter where he goes, I will treat you, Su Yun. No, that would be boring. Qin Wan shook her head. Just as the two were talking, two figures appeared at the stairs not far away. Qin Wan recognized Lu Ben Lu at a glance. Even though it was late at night, Lu Ben Lu was dressed very well. Chapter 3597. Lu Ben Lu didn't disappoint Su Yun. After he left the building, he quickly went to a Xingji cuisine with his friend. Xingji cuisine was a typical food stall in the port area. People who pursued the environment naturally wouldn't come here, but people who liked this kind of food might not be so particular about it. Lu Ben Lu was so particular about dressing, taste, and quality of life. Obviously, he was a person who pursued fantasy, so this kind of place was obviously not his choice. Someone must have chosen to meet him here, so Lu Ben Lu had to come here to talk. Su Yun and Qin Wan followed him secretly. Because Xingji Cuisine's business in Temple Street was very good, and there was more than one restaurant, so there was an endless stream of people coming in and out. Lu Ben Lu wouldn't notice Su Yun and Qin Wan at all. Of course, there was a premise. They absolutely couldn't speak Mandarin. If they spoke Mandarin, Lu Ben Lu would inevitably notice them at first. Someone came forward to greet Su Yun and Qin Wan. Su Yun simply ordered 2 things in Cantonese and signaled Qin Wan not to speak rashly. At this time, the friend who led Lu Ben Lu here ordered and left. Just as they placed their orders on the table, a broad figure appeared in front of Lu Ben Lu. Lu Ben Lu got up and smiled. His Cantonese was not bad. "Uncleine, you are here. Sorry to keep you waiting." A broad and fat middle-aged man sat opposite Lu Ben Lu. As soon as he sat down, he picked up a spoon and ate a mouthful of chicken sausage stew rice. Lu Ben Lu didn't seem to want to eat. He just quietly watched Uncle Ian eat with his mouth full of oil. Uncle Ian took out his handkerchief from his pocket and wiped his mouth. He said to Lu Ben Lu, "You eat too." "Okay." Lu Ben Lu had no choice but to pick up the oyster cake in front of him. The oyster cake here was really affordable. It was big, and there were many oysters in it. Lu Ben Lu took a bite and felt a little greasy. He quickly took a tissue to wipe his mouth and drank a mouthful of tea. In fact, the oyster cake here was not greasy, but Lu Ben Lu felt a little disgusted when he saw Uncle Ian wipe his mouth with a handkerchief. The chrysanthemum tea in this shop was definitely a must-have item for cooling one's internal heat. Once one's food became greasy, drinking some tea to cool down the internal heat would make one's stomach feel especially comfortable. Uncle Ian said to Lu Ben Lu with a smile. He saw through his thoughts at a glance. "Do you think it's unhygienic for me to use a handkerchief?" "No." Lu Ben Lu shook his head and quickly explained, "Absolutely not. To be honest, this habit of using a handkerchief, even in the continent, was probably something that only people in their 70s or 80s would have, right? Nowadays, both young and middle-aged people were used to using paper towels and wet wipes. Almost no one was still used to handkerchiefs. Actually, paper towels are the most unhygienic." Uncle Ian shook his head and said, "Especially the paper towels in these shops now. Most of the free ones were bought from the mainland. Not only is the quality poor, but there's also a layer of disgusting butter left after burning." Lu Ben Lu frowned. He was very clear that Uncle Yun was someone who looked down on the continent. We all know that most of this paper towel is recycled paper made from rotten newspapers. Uncle Yun said, "The paper towels you see in the port area are always labeled as superior products, but in your mainland, first-class products are already pretty good, and they definitely won't be sold at a discount. The ones sold at a discount in the mall are all the worst, qualified products." Paper towels were indeed divided into 3 grades: superior, first class, and qualified. The softness, water absorption, and toughness were different. The superior grade was of course the best, and the qualified grade was naturally the worst. Many indicators of the qualified grade were not even half of the first class. Lu Ben Lu had nothing to say, because what Uncle Ian said was the truth. The fluorescent agent on these can cause cancer. Uncle Ian shook his head with a smile. He had a very disdainful expression for the products of the continent. Lu Ben Lu knew Uncle Ian well. He knew that he had always been a person who looked down on the mainland, so he would not care about what he said. Qin Wan did not understand Cantonese. She whispered to Su Yun to translate for her. Su Yun just lowered his voice and told her that the two were just chatting. If they were talking about serious matters, they would not be stupid enough to use a normal voice to talk. When Uncle Ian finished all the chicken sausages and rice in front of him, the two lowered their voices and talked about serious matters. Fortunately, Su Yun's ears were sharp enough to hear the conversation between the two. "Uncle Ian, I contacted them before I came, but after I came to the port area, I couldn't contact them." "What is the meaning of this?" Lu Ben Lu said anxiously. Uncle Ian said, "I'm just a middleman for you. I can't be sure what he is thinking." "But you know more than me. What is going on?" Lu Ben Lu said, "The cooperation has always been good. Suddenly, they stabbed me in the back. This is too unscrupulous." "How can you be sure that they are unscrupulous and not you are unscrupulous?" Uncle Ian asked. Lu Ben Lu was stunned. "How can we be unscrupulous? The commission has never been less than a cent, and we have never been late for a day. Is there anyone who is a better customer than us? There are too many customers like you." Uncle Ian said, "What is missing in the Macau region? It is not missing people from the mainland who come to launder money. You mainlanders are really rich. You are so rich that we can't believe it. Uncle Ian, I hope that no matter what, you can tell me directly." Lu Ben Lu said, "We are so familiar with each other. There is no need to beat around the bush, right? If I remember correctly, the fee for me to help you connect the two of you has already been settled, right?" Uncle Ian said faintly. Lu Ben Lu was stunned at the time. It turned out that this old thing was arrogant because of money. No wonder he asked him to wait in that broken house and let him come to this broken place to eat. Uncle Ian, if you have this idea, you should have said it earlier. Lu Ben Lu said, if you said it earlier, the money may have been in your account. Ha 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 ha. Uncle Ian laughed until the fat on his belly trembled. I thought that with your understanding of me, even if I didn't say much, the money should have been in my account. Lu Ben Lu didn't have any temper in the face of Uncle Yin's joking sarcasm. He simply gritted his teeth and went straight to the point. He didn't want to waste time. Name a price. Do you still need to say it? Same old rules. Uncle Ian said. Lu Ben Lu glared at him. Uncle Ian, aren't you asking for too much? The previous price was the price to help me contact them. Now, I just want you to say something. You don't have to ask for that price, right? Isn't it higher? After eating the oyster cake, Uncle Ian was ready to get up and leave. It seemed that he really didn't intend to waste any more time. I still have a friend who invited me to play cards. If there's nothing else, then I'll take my leave first. Wait a minute. In the end, Lu Ben Lu couldn't hold it in. Uncle Yun, I'll take whatever you say. Wouldn't it be better if you were so straightforward earlier? Uncle Ian seemed to be reprimanding him, but he didn't mean to blame him. He was just joking with an ordinary friend. I like to deal with straightforward people. Lu Ben Lu had already cursed Uncle Yin's family for 18 generations in his heart, but he still looked respectful on the surface. Uncle Ian, I want to know why they are so unparticular? If it weren't for the fact that Lu Ben Lu really couldn't find someone who could help him operate so much money, he wouldn't continue to cooperate with those people who changed their minds. What's your previous commission ratio? Uncle Ian said faintly. 10%. Lu Ben Lu said. Uncle Ian glanced at him and said helplessly, of course, I know it's 10%. Then what does Uncle Ian mean? Lu Ben Lu didn't understand. Uncle Ian sighed. You also know that because of the increase in anti-corruption in the mainland, Macau now has to be very careful with money laundering. If you're not careful and get caught, or if you don't have a good relationship, it may cause a lot of trouble. Lu Ben Lu was stunned for a moment. Because the difficulty has increased now, the cost of relationships has naturally increased. Uncle Ian said, in fact, this is something that everyone knows. Even you mainlanders know because some of the rules and troubles about money laundering are made by you mainlanders. Lu Ben Lu was speechless. You mainlanders know that the cost of all aspects has to be increased, the difficulty has increased, the difficulty has increased, and the risk has increased, but you never took the initiative to ask if the commission needs to be increased. Uncle Ian said. Although Lu Ben Lu didn't say anything, he scolded in his heart. Would the buyer say to the seller, your things are sold too cheaply, I'll give you more money? Obviously, it's impossible. Uncle Ian could see Lu Ben Lu's dissatisfaction and unwillingness. In fact, those who do these things hope to become friends with their partners. If they can become friends, everyone will naturally understand and support each other. I understand. Lu Ben Lu sneered in his heart. You don't understand. Uncle Ian said. Lu Ben Lu said, what don't I understand? They just feel that the commission is too little, so they want more money. Yes, on the surface, it looks like they want more money, but they can tell you directly if they want more money. Uncle Ian said, but why don't they even care about you anymore? Lu Ben Lu was stunned. Uncle Ian was right. If they want money, just say it. There was no need to lose contact directly. Lu Ben Lu couldn't find them here. Because they feel that you don't take them seriously and only treat them as a tool to make money. No one wants to be a tool to make money for others, even if it's a cooperative relationship. Everyone is doing it for money. They are all making money on the same path, so they should be on equal footing. On equal footing? Lu Ben Lu's sneer in his heart continued. Why should they be on equal footing? Isn't this just a service industry? Did he really think of himself as a human being? But when he calmed down and thought about it again, without these people, how could he launder the black money? How could he smoothly transfer it to an overseas safe account? Phew. Lu Ben finally had to shake his head and compromise. Yes, these people were really too important. They were so important that he couldn't ignore them. I understand. Lu Ben humbly accepted Uncle Yin's education. I know what I did wrong. I will open my heart to them. In fact, I don't want you to open your heart to them at all. If you can't contact them again, I can make money again. Uncle Yin shook his head. I told you this today because I treat you as a friend. So, don't blame me for asking you for money. Money is money, and favors are favors. Lu Ben really admired this old fox's art of speech. He could make himself sound so good and make a lot of money. Chapter 3599. Uncle Jen's words to you today are definitely more meaningful than helping you contact a reliable stacking boy. Uncle Yun looked at Lu Ben with a smile. I'll wait for your letter. When I have a letter, I'll contact the person immediately, no matter how late it is. Lu Ben nodded. He knew that today's conversation had come to an end. Okay, I'll go back and deal with this as soon as possible. Uncle Yun left in a hurry. It seemed that his mahjong friends couldn't wait any longer. Lu Ben gritted his teeth and punched the table. Then, he got up and left. He had to return to the hotel as soon as possible to transfer the money to this old man. Then, he had to think of a way to explain the reason for this to the higher-ups. In fact, Lu Ben was still quite afraid of Chuan Shan. Everyone knew Chuan Shan's temper. Once this famous president got angry, no one could suppress him. Although Uncle Yun's referral fee of 1 million was nothing to Chuan Shan's temper was very strange. If he felt that someone was playing with him, fooling him, or cheating him, he wouldn't even give 10,000, let alone 1 million. If it was money that should be spent, he wouldn't care about tens of millions. Therefore, Lu Ben had a headache about the current situation. He was really worried that Chuan Shan wouldn't understand his actions. Every time he thought that Chuan Shan might question him or even scold him because of this, Lu Ben couldn't help but feel a chill all over his body. He couldn't help but shiver. After Su Yun and Qin Wan, returned to the hotel with Lu Ben again, Tai Kong and Man Yu had also eaten. After getting in touch, they rushed back. After Lu Ben returned to his room, he thought about it for more than half an hour. He still felt that he should tell Chuan Shan about the situation first and then give Uncle Yun the money. Anyway, he had already wasted a lot of time. He didn't care about a little more. Although it was already late at night, Lu Ben had no choice but to call Chuan Shan. Chuan Shan's assistant picked up the phone and asked him if there was anything else so late at night. Lu Ben explained, "It's a very special situation. Otherwise, I wouldn't have called the president so late at night." Only then did the assistant send the phone to Chuan Shan's ear. "Speak." Chuan Shan always spoke concisely and clearly. At this moment, he was wearing a bathrobe. He had just asked the senior technician in the villa to give him a full-body oil massage. After unblocking his meridians and activating his blood, Chuan Shan was full of energy. Perhaps because of his age, Chuan Shan paid a lot of attention to maintaining his appearance. "President Chuan, I think there's a need to talk to you about this," Lu Ben said carefully. "I think..." "Just say it," Chuan Shan said. "Let's talk after you've shaken it dry." Chuan Shan hated those who spoke to him sloppily, so he had always emphasized that when talking to him, they must shake it off a little, and not talk about those useless nonsense. "After I arrived, I couldn't contact the stacked boys in the Macau region. Then, I immediately found the person who introduced me, Uncle Yun. Uncle Yun said that he could help me find them again, but he still asked for 1 million for the introduction fee." Lu Ben said, "I said that I had already given him the money, so why did he still want it?" But he said, "Then give it to him." Chuan Shan suddenly interrupted Lu Benliu's words. "Which is more important, 1 million or dealing with my money as soon as possible?" "Of course, dealing with this money is more important," Lu Ben hurriedly said. "Then why did you call me and say this nonsense?" Chuan Shan said, "Didn't I tell you that you should spend the money you should spend, and don't spend the money you shouldn't spend?" Yes. Lu Benlu nodded again and again, and his forehead was sweating. He really couldn't guess President Chuan's thoughts. Chuan Shan was very dissatisfied. You have been with me for so many years. Don't you understand what kind of money should be spent and what kind of money shouldn't be spent? I know. Lu Benlu said, I promised Uncle Yun that I would give him the money, but I want to tell you in advance. In the future, don't tell me this kind of small thing anymore. Don't you see what time it is now? I just felt comfortable, and you disturbed me again. Can't you let me sleep comfortably? Chuan Shan's voice was obviously a little angry. It was only a small amount of 1 million, and it actually disturbed me. Lu Benlu, this bastard, is simply rotten wood that can't be carved. I'm sorry, President. I'm disturbing you. I wish you health. Good night. Lu Benlu hurriedly said. Chuan Shan directly threw the phone to the assistant, and the assistant took the phone and hung up. After Lu Benlu heard the busy tone, he was relieved. What is this called? This is called being with the king is like being with a tiger, right? In fact, Lu Benlu had never understood one thing. In Chuan Shan's eyes, what was the money that should be spent and what was the money that shouldn't be spent? Sometimes, the money that he thought should be spent was not needed in Chuan Shan's eyes at all. Sometimes, the money that he thought was unnecessary was spent by Chuan Shan without batting an eyelid. Lu Benlu sighed in his heart. It was a pity that he wasn't a roundworm in Chuan Shan's stomach. He really hoped that he was a roundworm in Chuan Shan's stomach. If that was the case, he wouldn't be scolded for these small things. Lu Benlu quickly dialed the phone and ordered his subordinates in the mainland to transfer the commission to Uncle Yun's inland card. About half an hour later, Uncle Yun's phone call came. Rapiliu, I personally admire your efficiency. Uncle Yun smiled slightly. You can rest assured. I have already arranged people for you. They will naturally come to you tomorrow. Lu Benlu was stunned. Tomorrow? Uncle Yun saw that it was past midnight, so he changed his words. No, today, someone will come to you today. Okay, Uncle Yun, then I will wait for them. Lu Benliu's voice was somewhat impatient. Uncle Yun laughed. If you feel that the night is long, you can find 2 Hong Kong girls to accompany you. If you don't have any channels, I can help you order takeout. It's my treat. No need. Lu Benlu rejected Uncle Yun's kindness. Who said that he didn't have channels? He had channels. He hadn't fallen to the point where he couldn't even call girls. The night is long. Uncle Yun smiled again. Since you don't need it, then I will continue to play my cards. I won't disturb your rest. Ha ha ha. Uncle Yun immediately hung up the phone. Lu Benlu looked at the clock on the wall, and the expression on his face became more and more stiff. If they didn't get in touch with him in time tomorrow morning, then he must embarrass Uncle Yun, that old fox. As he approached the bathroom, Lu Benlu dialed a familiar phone number and called 2 familiar Hong Kong girls to his room. He wanted to vent all the unhappiness today on the bed. Otherwise, he would definitely have a sleepless night. Chapter 3600. Although Qin Wan had lost the bet, she didn't need a midnight snack. At least, Tai Kong, who had just eaten, didn't have such thoughts. Manu was a girl after all, and she hadn't found a boyfriend yet. So, she definitely wouldn't lose her figure just because she was greedy. Since everyone didn't have such thoughts, Su Yun advised everyone not to waste their energy. He promised that Lu Benlu wouldn't do anything tonight. So, he hoped that everyone could go back to the hotel to rest. Qin Wan was obviously worried, but Su Yun told her that he was here, so they didn't need to waste their energy. If you trust me, then let me take care of it. Su Yun, this is also my original intention for coming here. Since I'm here to make you relax. If I'm here and you still want to do things like before, I don't need to come here. Qin Wan looked at Su Yun and didn't speak for a long time. Trust my judgment and decision, Su Yun. Without enough time, Lu Benlu won't go to Macau today. Okay, we trust you. Qin Wan nodded. Then, we'll all go to rest. Are you coming with us? Su Yun nodded. If you don't want to go with me, then I'll find a place myself. If you don't mind, you can share a room with me, Tai Kong invited. I don't snore when I sleep at night. Man Yu looked at Tai Kong and smiled. Uncle Chin, don't make a decision on your own. What if Chief Chin wants to invite guests? Aren't you ruining other people's plans? Tai Kong was stunned. He really didn't think about so many things. Chin Wan-er's face instantly turned red. This little bastard. What nonsense are you talking about? Am I spouting nonsense? Man Yu stuck out her tongue. I just said it casually. Chief Chin, why are you so agitated? I'm just joking. Be careful of your mouth. Chin Wan-er was speechless. As long as I'm here, don't think about getting a promotion. Hee, Director Chin, it's a pity that you're not that kind of person. Man Yu said, using public office to avenge private grudges is not your style. Chin Wan-er could not win against her. Man Yu's mouth was too clever. She could always make people speechless. It doesn't matter where I live. Su Yun laughed. He was actually telling Tai Kong that he didn't mind. However, Man Yu caught Su Yun's loophole. Uncle Chin, do you understand now? Don't be a busybody. Anyway, I don't mind you. I'll share a room with you today. Nonsense. Tai Kong glared at Man Yu. How can this be? It's too ugly. Please, Uncle Tai. You are old enough to be my father. Man Yu was a young person after all. She didn't have the reserve that people of Tai Kang's age would have. A person of Tai Kang's age wouldn't be able to bear it. Don't mess around. Chin Wan-er glared at Man Yu. Your Uncle Chin has a family. How can you mess around? Also, do you know that Uncle Chin's son is about to finish his master's at Yenjing University? He's about to go back to Shenzhen to find a Fortune 500 company to make a name for himself. I was even planning to introduce him to you. Man Yu didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Director Chin, are you kidding me? Who's kidding you? Chin Wan-er said. Uncle Chin's son is really outstanding. What era is this? You still want me to go on a blind date? Are you kidding? Man Yu shook her head. Even if there's a spark between me and little Tai, it's because I really fell in love at first sight. I won't go on a blind date even if you beat me to death. Chin Wan-er rolled her eyes. You really don't know what's good for you. Director Chin, if you think it's suitable, you can go on a blind date. Man Yu firmly rejected blind dates, this kind of disguised arranged marriage that still existed in this society. Of course, this kind of arranged marriage wasn't arranged by parents, but by society's material resources. What were the necessary factors for a blind date? Basically, it required a match of equal social status. The son of the municipal party secretary definitely wouldn't marry the daughter of an ordinary person with no social status in the countryside. The daughter of the mayor and deputy mayor definitely wouldn't marry the son of a migrant worker with no foundation. This wasn't mocking the farmers or the migrant workers, but the society that she was too lazy to scold. Man Yu hated blind dates the most. She had a good job for a girl, a civil servant. Moreover, Man Yu's father was a very smart businessman. He ran a very good non-staple food factory. Man Yu's mother was also a senior teacher, the vice principal of the Shenyang University-affiliated middle school. She even had a duplex property with 3 rooms, 3 living rooms, and 3 bathrooms in the day and garden in Jing and district. It was more than 200 square meters and had a small garden of 50 square meters. One had to know that this was in Shenzhen. This wasn't the kind of property that could be bought with 1 million yuan in a 5th-tier county. A property like this in Shenzhen was worth at least 15 million yuan. This didn't include the entire set of mahogany furniture in her house. Chin Wan-er had been to Man Yu's house before. The decoration could be said to be luxurious. It was decorated in Chinese style. Although Man Yu was young, she had been influenced by her parents and was very fond of Chinese style. Therefore, her father had decorated her house in Chinese style. Obviously, Man Yu's rich father treated his only precious daughter as the apple of his eye. He used the best for everything. According to Man Yu, just this set of Chinese-style sofa and coffee table was close to 400,000 yuan. Man Yu's conditions were good, and so were her blind date's conditions. Basically, she had a family and capital if she wanted. But Man Yu hated it. For Man Yu, any man who accepted a blind date wasn't worthy of her liking. Therefore, when she met them, she was perfunctory. She just didn't want her parents to embarrass her friends. When it came to matchmaking, everyone looked at the conditions, material goods, and the status of the other party's family in the society they lived in. Therefore, Man Yu dared to guarantee that with her pretty face and good figure, any man who knew her family would throw caution to the wind. Man Yu was still young. She still believed in love. Therefore, she felt that she would meet her own Prince Charming sooner or later. "Don't tease me." Tai Kong smiled and said, "With Man Yu's conditions, if my Tai family could be connected to her, then it would be a great kindness accumulated by our ancestors. Unfortunately, my son is also someone who doesn't go on blind dates." "Ha ha ha, Man Yu, don't worry. I won't have the chance to be your father-in-law." "Uncle Tai, if you say so, then it's not certain." Man Yu said, "At least, your son Xiao Tai met the first condition of my husband." "What?" Tai Kang's face was full of confusion. He looked at Man Yu with confusion. Man Yu smiled and said, "The first condition is someone who doesn't go on blind dates." Chapter 36:01. The few of them chatted and laughed all the way back to the hotel. The hotel they were staying at wasn't far from where Lu Benlu was staying, only 1 block away. Of course, Su Yun didn't sleep in the same room as Tai Kong that night. He got his own room, which was right beside Qin Wan-er and Man Yu's room. Qin Wan-er was very determined to sleep in the same room as Man Yu, as if to prevent Man Yu from joking around in the future. After all, young girls nowadays didn't have any sense of propriety when they talked. If Man Yu didn't sleep in the same room as her at night, she would definitely make all kinds of guesses the next day. Although Man Yu was a very qualified police officer, her little brain was very dirty, and she especially liked to make connections. If Man Yu's imagination started to run wild, then she wouldn't be able to stop. Nowadays, once an experienced driver started to race, it was very difficult to stop. Qin Wan-er didn't want to lie under her witty words. The night was quiet. Everyone knew that they had to do their work as early as possible the next morning. Lu Benlu was tossed and turned for the whole night. It was already 4 in the morning before he fell asleep in a daze. He slept until 9:30 in the morning. The Hong Kong girls who were tossed and turned by him for most of the night couldn't get up. Lu Benlu only opened his eyes when he woke up from thirst with a dry mouth and tongue. Lu Benlu drowsily reached out his hand to grab a glass of water from the bedside table, but he didn't grab anything. He impatiently kicked the Hong Kong girls beside him, trying to get them to pour him a glass of water to drink. He was a big boss who spent a lot of money. At this time, he needed them to serve him. He spent so much money for a night not just for them to accompany him to sleep. "Go! Get me a glass of water." However, perhaps they were too tired from being tossed around. The 2 Hong Kong girls didn't have any reaction. They just twisted their bodies and didn't want to listen to Lu Benliu's orders at all. Just as Lu Benlu was about to scold them, a bottle of mineral water was placed beside his hand. Lu Benlu didn't think much. He opened it and drank it. Only then did the anger in his heart disappear. However, just as the water entered his throat, Lu Benliu's brain suddenly buzzed. What was this situation? There was a Hong Kong girl next to his left leg and another Hong Kong girl next to his right leg. There were only 3 of them in the room. Who gave them the water? Thinking of this, Lu Benlu instantly became spirited. His mouth was originally dry, but he suddenly forgot about his burning throat. He sat up in a flash. At this moment, there were 3 people in front of Lu Benlu. One of them was sitting on the sofa opposite the bed, while the other 2 were standing beside him. The bottle of mineral water in Lu Benliu's hand was obviously given to him by the person sitting across from him. Lu Benliu's mind went blank. At this moment, he was so nervous that he couldn't say a word. His heart was in his throat. Who were these people? His brain didn't know how to function at all. Because Lu Benliu's movement of sitting up on the bed was too big, the two Hong Kong girls were also awakened. When the two naked Hong Kong girls saw the three strange men, their first reaction was to quickly cover themselves with the quilt. Like Lu Benliu, they had no idea what was going on and were completely confused. Who are you? Lu Benliu finally mustered up the courage to question. Although these two Hong Kong girls weren't much of a fighter, they were a force and support behind Lu Benliu at this moment. When Lu Benliu questioned the other party, the two Hong Kong girls couldn't help but curl up and hide behind Lu Benliu. Director Lu's body is really good. The young man sitting on the sofa opposite smiled. Such two beautiful girls. If it were me, I definitely wouldn't be able to get out of bed. You, what do you want to do? When Lu Benliu heard that the other party recognized who he was, he became more nervous. We haven't met before, right? What enmity? Maybe it's a mistake. Misunderstanding. Director Lu, look at what you're saying. The young man said faintly, You're really forgetful. We've met before. I'm Da Fei. Da Fei. Lu Benliu almost thought of everyone he knew in Hong Kong and Macau, but he didn't think that he knew someone like Da Fei. AI. Da Fei sighed helplessly. It seems that our Mr. Guan is really right. He said that you definitely can't recognize me. I didn't believe it at first. Mr. Guan. When Lu Benliu heard Da Fei say this, the big stone in his heart seemed to be suddenly put down. You're Mr. Guan's man? Guan Gaoyong? Da Fei nodded. How many Mr. Guan does Director Lu think there are in Macau? It turns out to be one of us. Lu Benliu's heart was completely put down. He was really scared just now. He really thought that this was someone who came to find trouble with him. It turned out that they were Guan Gaoyong's men. Of course, Lu Benliu still had some concerns. After all, it was really unacceptable for him to visit in this way. In fact, he wasn't wearing clothes now. How these guys came into the room also made Lu Benliu dumbfounded. Director Lu, if you think it's convenient for us to talk now, then let's get straight to the point. Da Fei said and glanced at the two Hong Kong women next to Lu Benliu. Da Fei also realized that it was inconvenient for these two women to talk here, so he glared and said, You two take the money and get out of here. Don't you see that I have guests here? The two Hong Kong women were not angry. They quickly got out of bed and put on all their clothes. Then they stuffed the money that Lu Benliu gave them into the small bag that they carried with them. They turned around and left. Da Fei could see that Lu Benliu gave a lot of money to the two Hong Kong women. Each of them had at least 10,000 Hong Kong dollars. Director Lu, in fact, this level of goods is not worth this price at all. Da Fei smiled faintly and said, If Manager Lu likes it, you can come to me after you come here. I will arrange it for you. Manager Lu, with the money you spent, I can arrange at least 4 better ones for you. Lu Benliu smiled awkwardly. The purpose of him coming to Hong Kong and Macau was not to play with women. He came here for business. If it was to play with women, he could find all kinds of women in mainland China. In the international metropolis of Shenzhen, there were Asian, African, American, European, and colorful skin. Shenzhen was much more fun than Hong Kong and Macau. He came to Hong Kong and Macau for business. Since they are gone, let's talk about business. Brother Da Fei, did Mr. Guan ask you to come? Of course, Mr. Guan asked me to come. Da Fei said, If Director Lu doesn't want to waste time, then I won't waste your time. Mr. Guan also asked me to deal with things as soon as possible. Chapter 3602. Lu Benliu was very satisfied and nodded happily. Then let's get straight to the point and solve the problem as soon as possible. In fact, I am also very anxious. Boss Lu, if you were really anxious, you wouldn't have had so much fun last night. Da Fei said with some mockery. I arrived at 8 o'clock and sat here waiting for you for more than an hour until now. If you could get up earlier, we might have finished the business and gone to have breakfast together. Lu Benlu broke out in a cold sweat after hearing this. These guys had been in for more than an hour. Lu Benlu had to blame himself for not being on guard. He should have fastened the safety lock in the door after going to bed. If he had fastened it, there would not have been so much trouble. Yes, I did delay the time. Lu Benlu nodded. Then I won't delay any more. Uncle Yun has already told me that it is more troublesome for you to do things now than before, so there is a certain requirement for the commission. Da Fei nodded. Yes, there is a certain new requirement. Lu Benlu suddenly remembered that he had seen Da Fei before. Da Fei was an inconspicuous follower of Bai Gaoyang. Last time they met, he was still an inconspicuous follower who had no right to speak. He was not the follower who had the right to speak beside Bai Gaoyang at all. Has there been a change in such a short time? Looking at Da Fei's current state, it was obvious that he was no longer the follower who could only stand aside, just like the two people behind him at this moment. Brother Da Fei, if you have any requirements, just tell me. Lu Benlu nodded. You can rest assured that as long as it is reasonable, I will cooperate with you. Boss Lu, you are giving me too much face by saying so. Da Fei smiled slightly. I am just afraid that Boss Lu said it so easily now, but it will not be so pleasant when we really cooperate. Brother Da Fei, what you said is wrong. Lu Benlu also laughed. Brother, you are young and promising with a promising future. Now you must be Mr. Bai's right-hand man, right? You can ask for anything, and I will agree to it. Take it as a congratulatory gift for your promotion. Da Fei's expression calmed down. I dare not say that I will be promoted. Ha ha ha, that's not what I meant. Lu Benlu said, but I have good intentions. I believe Brother Da Fei can understand my intentions. Of course, Da Fei understood what Lu Benlu meant. Lu Benlu wanted to build a good relationship with him. After all, if they cooperated for a long time, they would have to deal with each other. Director Lu, I won't beat around the bush. Da Fei said, Mr. Guan has given you a number. I hope you can accept it. Then we can cooperate with you right away. Okay. Lu Benlu nodded. In fact, he already had a plan in mind. 20%, Da Fei said calmly. Lu Benlu was stunned. 20%. This time, it had doubled. Increase. Da Fei added another word. What? Lu Benlu couldn't sit still anymore. Because the commission they had agreed on before was only 10%, after deducting some other expenses, the total cost was only about 12% of the money laundered. Now, the other party actually wanted to increase it by 20%? Wouldn't that be 30%? Not to mention an increase of 20%, even if it was a total of 20%, he couldn't accept it. Lu Benlu estimated the price in his heart to be 15%. He believed that this price was also acceptable to the chairman. If it was 30%, it would be crazy. They didn't do small business of a few million or 10 million. The money laundered last time was in the hundreds of millions. Sometimes it was in the hundreds of millions. Increasing the commission by 3 times was too ridiculous. Director Lu, don't worry. Let me finish. Da Fei motioned Lu Benlu to sit down. Although Lu Benlu sat down, he still felt like he was sitting on pins and needles. Because we are all old friends. Da Fei took a sip of water and made his expression look very sincere. Since we are old friends and old partners, we can naturally cooperate with a discount. Lu Benlu's eyes flashed a trace of uneasiness. Mr. Guan means to give Director Lu a commission of 25%. This is almost a 20% discount. Da Fei smiled slightly. Director Lu, your face is already very high. Mr. Guan has never given anyone such a big discount. Da Fei, isn't Mr. Guan's price a bit exorbitant? Lu Benlu was a little angry. Da Fei shook his head disapprovingly. This is the current market price. You don't know how big our cooperation is. Lu Benlu said, Do you know how big a loss it is for you to lose a customer like us? Daffé was still unmoved. Boss Lou, now that the crackdown is so severe, how many collaborators do you think can survive in the cracks? And out of the few remaining collaborators, how many of them are able to swallow such a large amount of black money from you? Lu Benlu was stunned on the spot. Not many people will be able to swallow it. Daffé smiled slightly. If you want to find other partners, you don't need me to give you Uncle Ru's phone number. You can go to him. While speaking, Daffé stood up and tidied up his clothes. Lu Benlu was stunned on the spot and quickly stood up. Daffé, what are you doing? Since Director Lu feels that there is nothing to talk about, I won't waste time. Mr. Guan is still waiting for me to go back and give him a message. Daffé said, I think Director Lu has made it very clear that he can't accept our price at all. Lu Benlu really didn't know what to say. I really don't know what to say. It's me. Oh. Why didn't you say this before I came to Hong Kong and Macau? Director Lu, there are some words that shouldn't be said by us. Daffé said, It's you. You know something. You know that some things are changing, but you pretend to know nothing. Lu Benlu had nothing to say. Daffé smiled. If you didn't want to use us as fools, we might have negotiated a price that you think is appropriate. Then you don't need to be embarrassed here. Brother Daffé, can you take me to see Mr. Guan? I have something to say to him in person. Lu Benlu said. Daffé looked at Lu Benlu with a slightly provocative look. Director Lu, do you mean that I'm not qualified? Huh. Since I'm not qualified, you can find another way to contact Mr. Guan if you think you can. Then I have nothing to say. Chapter 3603. No. I absolutely didn't mean that. Lu Benlu immediately explained, I just think that I can communicate with Mr. Guan more about the commission. Mr. Guan made it very clear that he gave me full authority in this matter. Daffé said to Lu Benlu proudly. For him, this was the first thing he had to do after becoming Mr. Guan's favorite. He had to do it well. Mr. Guan had given Daffé a limit, at least to 20% of the commission. Daffé arbitrarily gave Lu Benlu such a high price, just in case. If he directly asked for 20% of the commission, Lu Benlu would still be dissatisfied. After all, the commission would be doubled. But if he asked for 30% and then slowly reduced it, maybe Lu Benlu could accept it. What's more, once Lu Benlu accepted his high price, he could raise his head in front of Mr. Zhang when he went back. He could also let those who doubted his ability and spoke ill of him in front of Mr. Zhang remember him, Daffé, and his ability. Now that he had the opportunity, Daffé must do a few good things so that Mr. Guan would not regret promoting him. If Brother Datian had not been in the hospital because of revenge, Daffé would not have had the opportunity now. In fact, Daffé was under a lot of pressure. Although Brother Datian was still in the hospital, once he could come out alive, he could easily kill Daffé with his status and contribution, and let Daffé continue to be a follower. At that time, Daffé would be like the two guys behind him now. He could only be Brother Datian's follower forever. In the past, when Daffé was a follower, he didn't think there was anything wrong with being a follower. But now it was different. Daffé had tasted the feeling of being a big brother under Mr. Guan. When he stood in front of his followers and everyone called him Brother Fei, he really hoped that Brother Datian would never come out of the hospital alive. Because only when Brother Datian was disabled could he have a future. It was a pity that Daffé did not have the courage to spend money to find someone to kill Brother Datian. He was afraid that he would be exposed, so he did not dare to act rashly. Otherwise, he would have done it. Only by doing it could he have a chance to sit firmly in his position forever. Brother Daffé, you know that I also work for others. I can't afford such a large sum of money. Lu Benlu said, You're asking for an exorbitant price that we can't accept. I really can't continue this conversation. Director Lu, I've said it before. Because we're friends, we're also particular about friendship. Daffé said, I've given you a discount. You're the one who's not satisfied. Lu Benlu shook his head. Daffé, Do you know how much money we are going to transfer to the underground bank? There was no expression on Dauphin's face. Manager Lu, I'm afraid this is your business. It has nothing to do with me. I only know that what I have to do is to do what I should do well. Mr. Shuang sent me here to discuss business, not to chat with you. This time, we're transferring 1.5 billion. Lu Benlu ignored Dauphin's interruption and continued, 1.5 billion, you want to charge me 30%? It's 25%, Dauphin reminded him. Well, even if it's 25%, how much money will it be? Lu Benlu said, 375 million. Lu Benlu couldn't help but sigh when he said this. In addition to the other expenses and his hard work here, President Yuan would spend at least 400 million. Laundering 1.5 billion would cost 400 million? If it was in the past, he wouldn't even need 200 million. It was more than twice as much. No one could accept it. Moreover, President Yuan needed to launder as much as 10 billion every year. The higher the commission ratio, the more he had to spend. This money wasn't just President Yuan's. How many people transferred their money abroad through President Yuan? Lu Benlu didn't even dare to think about this number. Therefore, Lu Benlu didn't dare to ask President Yuan for this. If he opened his mouth, President Chuan might just swallow him whole. Would he still want to work in the future? Would he still want to make a living in the future? He still needed these commissions to maintain his shabby shop. All the fees he received still needed to be washed clean with his own money. With President Yuan's help, he could get 6 to 7 million every year. Lu Benlu didn't want to lose this money. This was because there was no other way to make money faster than this. He came to the port area once every 1 or 2 months to eat, drink, gamble, and have the company of beautiful women. He could easily make money that many people couldn't make in their lifetime. It was not easy to make money these days. If Lu Benlu didn't have this opportunity, and if it wasn't for his relationship with President Yuan, he would still be a well-to-do person. Before he helped President Yuan launder money, Lu Benlu was a middle-level leader in a small company. His annual income of a few $100,000 was not high in Shanghai. Many people he interacted with had a higher income than him. In today's society, there were always people who liked to feel superior to others. Lu Benlu had many such people around him. These people's biggest hobby was to ask him how much he earned every year. When he had an income of 50 to 60,000, some people with an annual income of 70 to 80,000 would show off to him. When he had an annual income of a few $100,000, some people with an annual income of a few $100,000 would show off to him. Lu Benlu really couldn't stand it. There were always people showing off their superiority in front of him. As Lu Benlu became richer, he slowly realized that the higher the level of a person, the less boring the thought of showing off. Lu Benlu began to eagerly hope that he could become rich, super rich. Only by becoming super rich could he get rid of these flaunting bastards around him. Finally, Lu Benlu had the opportunity to become President Yuan's money launderer. He could easily make money that many people couldn't make. He also realized at this time why rich people didn't like to show off. Lu Benlu would never show off his income to anyone. Once he showed off, there would always be people who would marvel at his industry and hope to bring him into it. At this time, Lu Benlu would be speechless. He couldn't say anything because he knew that his money couldn't be washed clean. No matter how he washed it, it wouldn't be clean money. There were two sides to everything in the world. Dauphin, for me, the price I can give you is only 15%. Lu Benlu said, this is acceptable to me, and also acceptable to the people above me. 25% is really impossible. It's not as easy to make money as you think. Chapter 3604. Dauphin smiled and said, Mr. Lu, if this is said by an ordinary person on the mainland, I believe that it is not easy to make money on the mainland these days. After a pause, Dauphin continued, but it is not persuasive for you. All you need to do is go to the casino and leave the rest to us. Is there anything easier than making money? As for the people above you, they don't even need to show up. They just need to give you a word. Lu Benlu was silent. No one can make money more easily than the powerful people on the mainland. Da Fei sneered, "It is not easy for us to make money." "So there is no negotiation?" Lu Benlu said. Da Fei spread out his hands and said, "I have given you 5%, but Mr. Lu doesn't seem to show any sincerity. You asking me to accept 15% is like asking you to accept 31%. There is no negotiation at all." "Well, I see what you mean." Lu Benlu nodded. Da Fei hoped that he could increase the percentage of the commission. Lu Benlu knew this trick very well. He also knew that Da Fei must have room to maneuver. He believed that Mr. Bai must have his own number. Now Da Fei wanted to show off in front of Mr. Bai, so it was reasonable for him to want to increase the commission. But Da Fei just got some power and didn't know how to use it correctly, so the price was too high. If Lu Benlu was not in a hurry to launder the money, he would have ignored him. If that was the case, Da Fei would be skinned alive by Mr. Bai when he went back. "Da Fei, let me give you a piece of advice." Lu Benlu said, "I can help you increase the commission as much as possible, but you should stop. This is a win-win business for us. We should not leave on bad terms because of one-sided reasons. Mr. Lu, don't talk to me about these big principles." Da Fei smiled and said, "I just work for Mr. Bai. Everything I do is for the benefit of Mr. Bai. All the money is transferred through the underground money house of the mainland. I can't see any money." "I don't mean to threaten you." Lu Benlu shook his head and said, "I am also thinking for you." Da Fei looked up at Lu Benlu disapprovingly. "I believe that Brother Da Fei is also eager to gain merit, so he wants to do everything he can to help Mr. Guan fight for benefits." Lu Benlu said, "However, as someone who has been through this before, I hope that you can listen to some kind reminders. Merit is not something that can be achieved overnight." "Boss Lu, I didn't come here to listen to your lecture." Da Fei obviously didn't have much patience. When he was still an underling, he often heard all kinds of preaching. Now that he had become the eldest brother, he didn't need to listen to anyone's preaching except for Mr. Zhang's. No one dared to point fingers in front of him. Now that Lu Benlu was standing in front of him and trying to reason with him, why should he care about this guy's nonsense? It was meaningless. In Da Fei's eyes, Lu Benlu was just a dog of those big shots on the continent. Why should he listen to a dog preaching to him? "I'm just giving you a piece of advice." After Lu Benlu finished speaking, he took out his mobile phone and was ready to call President Chuan to ask about the commission. The issue of commission was not a small matter, and Da Fei asked for an exorbitant price. He believed that Chuan Shan would not blame him for this matter. It was the people here who did not abide by the rules and suddenly changed their minds. These things were out of Lu Benliu's control. Maybe Uncle Yun was playing tricks in it. Lu Benlu dialed Chuan Shan's phone again. This time he was not so worried, because this kind of thing was different from yesterday's situation. After Chuan Shan answered the phone this time, he was a little angry and asked, "What happened again?" "President Chuan, I can't solve this matter. I can only call you for instructions." Lu Benlu said, "Uncle Yun has helped me contact Mr. Guan's people. Now our situation is very awkward. Mr. Guan's people are around me. They ask for a higher commission." When Chuan Shan heard this, he frowned slightly and asked, "How much?" For this situation, Chuan Shan had already known it in his heart. He knew very well that there were some difficulties in Macau now. Not only Macau, but also the underground money houses in China had encountered a lot of trouble. Because the serious capital outflow in Huaxia was becoming more and more obvious, especially since the pressure of the yuan's depreciation rose last year, many people like Chuan Shan began to accelerate the allocation of overseas assets. If it was not easy to transfer funds through legal channels, they would use some illegal channels to transfer funds. The depreciation of money and the intensification of cross-border capital flows. No country would let it go. Now the whole of Huaxia had always maintained a high-pressure crackdown on illegal activities such as underground money houses, rectified the order of foreign exchange management, and maintained economic and financial security. With the close cooperation of the relevant departments, the whole of Huaxia was continuously organizing special operations to crack down on underground money houses. By tracing the foreign exchange violations behind the money houses, many cases of illegal foreign exchange trading, using false documents to fabricate foreign exchange transactions to cheat the purchase of foreign exchange, and evasion of foreign exchange were uncovered. In addition to increasing the crackdown on underground money houses, the relevant departments of Huaxia also adopted a variety of means to control capital outflow and adopted stricter capital and foreign exchange controls. This situation was getting more and more serious, so it was getting more and more difficult. It's increased a lot. I don't think it's necessary to report this price. Lu Benlu said so directly. Because he was in front of Dafei, he wanted Dafei to know that the price he said was impossible. He didn't need to say it. Dafei naturally knew what Lu Benlu meant. His face was gloomy. For Lu Benlu, he was still a little inexperienced. In fact, Dafei also knew that his price was a little high. But the higher it was, the more it proved that he had a guilty conscience. He was too worried that he couldn't get a 20% commission, so he quoted such a high price. This lack of confidence was nothing to hide for Lu Benlu. He completely saw through it at a glance. Chuan Shan thought for a long time, and Lu Benlu didn't speak. He knew that Chuan Shan must want a reasonable commission, because he was used to the previous 10% commission. Now he suddenly asked him to add a part, it would be difficult for him to accept. But combined with the current situation, he also knew that the other party couldn't accept it if he gave too little. If it was 15%, Chuan Shan would agree without hesitation. Chuan Shan also knew that if it was 15%, Lu Benlu would not dare to say it to him. Well, I'll give you an upper limit. Chuan Shan said faintly, 18%. With an 18% commission, after deducting the miscellaneous expenses, he could have 80 million yuan at most. This number was still acceptable. But if he were to deduct the expenses, he would still have 70 million yuan left. He still needed a variety of huge expenses for his own connections and operations to stabilize his position. He was afraid that in the end, he wouldn't even have half of it left. Chapter 3605. I see. Lu Benlu nodded and did not say any more nonsense. It's settled. Chuan Shan said, if it's not settled, I believe you can find Mr. Su and give him 2 million yuan. He will definitely be able to contact other stacking companies. Lu Benlu nodded seriously and said, yes. Chuan Shan did not say any more nonsense and hung up directly. Dafei was waiting for the answer nervously. The tension on his face could not escape Lu Benliu's eyes. For Dafei, who was responsible for the 20% commission negotiation, he urgently needed to prove himself. Brother Dafei, I don't know if you have heard the price offered by our president? Lu Benlu smiled faintly. It's a pity that the gap is a little big, so I'm not going to continue the negotiation. What do you mean? Dafei was stunned. Nothing. Lu Benlu said, haven't I made it clear enough? Don't joke. Dafei heard Lu Benliu's firm tone and almost collapsed on the spot. If he really turned hostile at this time, it would be too funny. This kind of business was not a small business like buying vegetables and selling fruits. This kind of business could easily cost hundreds of millions. How could he just give up like this? Boss Lu, you spent 1 million yuan to let Uncle Yun contact us again. You won't really play us like this. Dafei saw Lu Benlu did not speak, and he was even more anxious. Lu Benlu nodded, yes, I spent 1 million yuan to contact you again, but I believe that a middleman like Uncle Yun will accept anything as long as there is money. You've wasted your 1 million. I really don't care about 1 million yuan. Lu Benlu showed his status. I can spend 1 million yuan to let Uncle Yun contact Mr. Bai again, and I can spend 2 million yuan to let Uncle Yun contact another Mr. Bai. Dafei, do you really think that only your family has the ability to stack companies in Macau? You will regret it. Dafei said, everyone knows the current market price. But I also believe that your competitor is willing to have a perfect cooperation with us at a low commission in order to pull away a big customer of yours. Lu Benlu stood up and made a gesture to see him off. Brother Dafei, please. The flesh on Dafei's face trembled a little. Of course, Lu Benlu was very clear about the limits of his actions. If he didn't control this degree well, it was easy to make people angry. Now, he wanted to let this degree be on the verge of exploding, to make Dafei feel very uncomfortable, to make Dafei almost explode but unable to do so. Actually, Brother Dafei, since you came here so early, I should treat you to breakfast. Lu Benlu smiled. If you don't mind, can you wait for me for a while? At this time, if Dafei waved his hand and left, Lu Benlu would admit defeat. He could only find Uncle Yun to contact a new partner. But at this time, if Dafei agreed to have breakfast with him, it would be a compromise between Dafei and Lu Benlu would easily take the initiative. What was this called? This was called a method. After hesitating for a while on the sofa, Dafei finally gritted his teeth and said to Lu Benlu, Manager Lu, since you are here, you are naturally a guest. As the host, I should do my best. I will wait for you and take you to have breakfast. It should be my treat. Ha ha, good. Then I won't postpone it. Lu Benlu said, since you want to make friends with me, I won't put on any airs. Let's talk about our business in detail when we eat. I believe we must have a better solution. Dafei gritted his teeth and did not make any answer. For Lu Benlu, the old bastard, he really hated and was angry, but he really could not do anything to him. If this guy was not a follower of a rich businessman on the mainland, Dafei really wanted to take him to a place where there was no one and kill him. Okay. I also believe we must have a way. Dafei swallowed a mouthful of saliva. Lu Benlu was actually very happy at this time. Regaining the initiative meant that he would not fail to live up to the great trust of President Chuan. But thousands of thoughts flashed in Dafei's mind. How should he keep the bottom line of 20% commission? If he could not keep this price, would Mr. Guan trust him in the future? Although this was indeed a little difficult for him, Dafei was very clear that only by helping Mr. Guan to solve difficult and troublesome things, Mr. Guan would always trust him. Only if Mr. Guan always trusted him, could he always have food to eat and status to keep. Dafei's desire for power made it impossible for him to give up this negotiation. He could not let Lu Benlu go. Once he let Lu Benlu go, Mr. Guan might turn against him on the spot. There was a heated discussion on the upper floor of the hotel. Downstairs, Su Yun and the others had already arrived to monitor Lu Benlu. Qin Weiner did not know how Su Yun was sure that Lu Benlu was upstairs. Su Yun just pointed to the black car with the license number of the Macau. What does this mean? Qin Weiner was puzzled. It means there is a business going on upstairs. Su Yun smiled slightly. We have been here for 2 hours, but this car still hasn't left. It means the business negotiation is very fierce. Talking business with Lu Benlu? Qin Weiner was stunned. You mean, this is the car of the Macau? Of course, Su Yun said. How are you sure? Qin Weiner was shocked. We didn't see anyone appear at all. Of course, we weren't sure. Su Yun, however, before leaving here last night, I gave the security guard on duty 1,000 yuan to help me see if the car with the Macau license number would appear. Only then did Qin Wan realize why Su Yun had gone to talk to the security guard before they left yesterday. Then today, he told me that this car arrived at 6 in the morning. There were 3 young people, all dressed like people from the underworld. Su Yun, the characteristics are very similar, and I trust my intuition. I know they won't waste time today. At this time, Uncle Qin and Man Yu rushed over after breakfast. Su Yun and Qin Weiner had asked them to eat in the hotel before coming. It seemed that there was no special situation here. Just as Su Yun and Qin Weiner were about to change shifts and have breakfast, a familiar figure appeared at the door. Lu Benlu was still dressed very elegantly. He looked like a cultured person. He looked so out of place with the 3 young people beside him, but he was very friendly on the surface. Lu Benlu and the 3 young people came to the car. Someone opened the door for him and he sat directly in. Go back to the hotel and wait for news, Su Yun said to Qin Weiner and the other two. I will follow. Don't worry. Chapter 3606. Su Yun followed Lu Ben-lu and the others all the way to Wellington Street in Central. The car stopped in front of a morning tea shop with the 3 words Lotus Fragrance Restaurant hanging on it. However, Lu Ben-lu didn't mean to get out of the car at all. He just frowned and glanced at the morning tea shop through the window. In fact, it was not surprising because Lotus Fragrance Restaurant didn't look very classy from the outside, and Su Yun also knew that the cost here was not high. Ordinary people could afford it, so the customer flow was relatively large. However, this was the original Hong Kong-style morning tea. Lotus Fragrance Restaurant had a long history. There were originally 3 Lotus Fragrance restaurants in Hong Kong and Macau. Now there was only one left on Wellington Street in Central. It was really an old shop with 100 years of history. Su Yun felt sorry for Lu Ben-lu because people of his class might look down on Lotus Fragrance Restaurant, so he might not have entered it even once. The history here was so long that it had become the symbol of the original Hong Kong-style morning tea. It could be said that Lotus Fragrance Restaurant had witnessed the prosperity of Hong Kong and Macau. Although there was no beautiful and exquisite star-rated restaurant here, and there was no Michelin rating, one could really feel that morning tea had been an indispensable part of the daily life of Hong Kong and Macau people when they came here. Perhaps Lu Ben-lu was just not used to this kind of class, where he didn't have to be restrained, no restrictions, and no one to arrange a seat for him. There really was no customer service here. Originally, Dafei was kind and wanted to bring Lu Ben-lu here to taste the original Hong Kong-style morning tea. However, Lu Ben-lu didn't appreciate it. He could only let someone drive away from Wellington Street. Wan Chai Harbor Road, Grand Hyatt Hotel, Dafei said. The driver understood that Dafei was going to take Lu Ben-lu to Harbor 1, which was a high-spending and high-class place. The design idea of Harbor 1 originated from the luxury mansion of Shanghai Dabin in the 1930s. It could be said that it was very cool. Moreover, the restaurant had an intoxicating sea view of Victoria Harbor, a glass ceiling, and a lotus fountain. It was definitely a place where people who liked to show off in their circle of friends would come to take photos. Lu Ben-lu was very satisfied with the environment here. The restaurant was decorated with beautiful and delicate rosewood and natural stone pillars to increase the sense of space on the lower floor, which made him particularly enjoy. The lotus fountain was paved with unique mosaic glass stones. There were also handmade carpets, wooden furniture, and curtains, giving a particularly warm harmony. Su Yun followed the other diners in as if nothing had happened. He knew that if 2 people ate breakfast together in this place, it would cost at least 4,000 to 5,000 yuan. Don't think that breakfast can be expensive. This is one of the top 20 restaurants in Asia. A 6-star restaurant's reputation is not just for show. When Su Yun saw that Lu Ben-lu and the other party were seated, he contacted Qin Wan-er and asked her to come over. He also told Qin Wan-er that he would treat her to breakfast. It took Qin Wan-er more than 10 minutes to get there. When she entered the restaurant, she was shocked. If she hadn't brought Su Yun with her, she would have probably eaten all of them out just to keep an eye on Lu Ben-lu. Su Yun gestured for Qin Wan-er to sit in the corner that he had chosen. They were not far from where Lu Ben-lu was eating, so they could clearly hear every word that they were saying. Lu Ben-lu didn't hesitate to order some food that he was interested in. That table alone cost at least 20,000 yuan. Dafei had been holding back. After he lost the initiative, he could hardly be angry with Lu Ben-lu. Mr. Lu, I hope you can do me a favor. Dafei said, now let's be frank. 22% is my bottom line. Hearing this, Lu Ben-lu ignored Dafei and ate the shrimp dumplings casually. The shrimp dumplings here were transparent, exquisite, smooth, and delicious. They were definitely the best shrimp dumplings he had ever eaten. They deserve to be the best shrimp dumplings. The skin is as white as snow, as thin as paper, and translucent. The meat filling is vaguely visible. It is so smooth and fresh. Lu Ben Lu paused for a long time and then responded with a sentence that was not related to the topic at all. Da Fei was stunned. Mr. Lu, what do you mean? Nothing. Lu Ben Lu still didn't raise his head and picked up another piece of steamed shumai. While appreciating the delicious food, he expressed his enjoyment. After eating, he shook his head and picked up another piece of barbecued pork bun. Compared with shumai, I prefer barbecued pork bun, especially this kind of barbecued pork with the right amount of fat and lean. After steaming, the wrapping is just soft and smooth. When it is slightly cracked, the barbecued pork filling will be exposed, giving off a burst of barbecued pork fragrance. What's the saying again? Tall birdcage shape with a big belly. When it bursts out, only a little of the filling will be exposed. After sighing with emotion, Lu Ben Lu took a sip of tea. It's delicious and I'll never get tired of eating it. Every time I come to Hong Kong and Macau, I have to eat barbecued pork bun in the morning. Those knockoffs in the mainland can't be compared with the authentic ones at all. Mr. Lu, I think we really don't need to beat around the bush. Da Fei's face was very ugly. Lu Ben Lu nodded. Yes, that's right. We really don't need to beat around the bush. Then the price I give you. It's you who continues to beat around the bush. Lu Ben Lu interrupted Da Fei impolitely. You asked me not to beat around the bush, but now you want to talk about 22%. Do you really think I'm stupid? Da Fei was completely speechless and didn't know what to say. Da Fei, if you think it's necessary to continue to beat around the bush, then let's continue to beat around the bush. Lu Ben Lu said, however, I only have time to play with you for this meal. After this meal, I'll look for another cooperation. I'm really pressed for time. Da Fei immediately panicked. Think carefully before you speak. Lu Ben Lu raised his hand to signal Da Fei to stop talking nonsense. Think carefully and tell me a price. Don't do this, okay? Do you think it's okay to reduce it by 3 points? To tell you the truth, don't you feel guilty when you speak? Da Fei closed his eyes and tried to calm himself down. Then he slowly said, well, since you said so, I'll make it clear to Mr. Lu at last. Okay. Lu Ben Lu nodded. I'm looking forward to a price that won't make me hit the table and leave. 20%. 20%. Da Fei said seriously, this is the bottom line given by Mr. Closed. Da Fei, don't want to cheat you, but I just want to know that there is always bargaining in business, so I had to do that. Da Fei must be out of his mind to say such words. Lu Ben Lu sneered in his heart. This bastard was still too naive. Da Fei, you know in your heart that there must be bargaining when doing business. Now you tell me that Mr. Closed Door's price is a 20% commission. Do you expect me to agree to it directly? Lu Ben Lu looked at Da Fei with a slightly contemptuous look. A good start to the new year. Thank you for the red envelopes and blessings sent by the 163 new readers I met on WeChat on New Year's Day. I won't nominate you one by one. Thank you. It's good that you know it. I believe you can see it. I wish you all the best in the new year and all your wishes will be fulfilled. The blessings are 2 days late. Please don't mind. 2 days ago, there were some complicated things at home. I didn't have the energy to be distracted. My perfunctory blessings are not sincere. So although it's 2 days late, I still send my blessings. I have nothing to give you. I can only hope that you can relax and have a good mood when reading. Chapter 3607. Da Fei was now directly pushed to a position where there was no way to get down. Lu Benliu's words forced him into a desperate situation. I might as well tell you that I can't accept the price you mentioned now. Lu Benliu smiled faintly. This feeling of having everything in his hands was really too comfortable. You're messing with me. Da Fei glared. 15% is impossible. What about 16%? Lu Benliu continued to use a joking tone. If it were not for the strict security of this high-end place, he would have slammed the table and turned hostile. Lu Benliu could see the displeasure on Da Fei's face. You know very well how disgusting this is. Why do you still waste your breath in front of me? The more annoyed you are at the moment, the more helpless I was before. Boss Lou, what do you want me to do? Admit my mistake? Or blame me for speaking too carelessly? Da-Fei said, if you feel that there is something wrong, please tell me directly. I was expelled from the school when I was in junior high school, so I am not educated. After leaving school, I have been mingling in the underworld. What I do is straightforward. I will chop whoever I don't like. If the boss doesn't like me, I will chop whoever he wants me to chop. I don't know how to beat around the bush. Lu Benlu was stunned. How can this be called not knowing how to beat around the bush? This was obviously a threat to Lu Benlu. If he did not give a quick answer, he would chop him up. Brother Da-Fei's education is really too low. Lu Benlu shook his head. Do you know that if you go to Huaxia, it will be difficult for you to survive? Now Huaxia requires education for everything. If you want to be a thug with a local developer, you also need a college degree. Da-Fei did not understand what Lu Benlu wanted to say. He stared at him without saying a word. What is the saying? In fact, gangsters are not terrible. What is terrible is that gangsters are literate. Lu Benlu laughed. What does this mean? It means that literate people are better than gangsters. Lu Benlu was a master's student at Shenzhen University. Of course, he was qualified to think that he was better than Da-Fei. Yes, Boss Lu is right. Da-Fei nodded. Whatever Boss Lu says is right. As long as Boss Lu agrees to sign this contract for me and settle this 20% contract, I will definitely prepare a generous gift to learn from Boss Lu in the future. Don't. Lu Benlu shook his head. Don't flatter me. I know I can't afford it. I don't dare to sign this 20%. I'm very sincere. Da-Fei seemed to be a little anxious. If Da-Fei didn't admit that Mr. Bien gave him 20% and he raised it to 30% in order to bargain, Lu Benlu might really think that he was sincere. But now, Lu Benlu didn't seem to be sincere at all. Something like sincerity isn't something you can have just because you say so. Lu Benlu said, you have to show it and show it. How? Da-Fei was stunned. Lu Benlu said seriously, do you know, Brother Da-Fei, the 15% I said was the highest estimate I gave to our boss. Just now, he told me with certainty that 15% commission was his ideal price. Da-Fei shook his head hard and said, that's too low. It definitely won't work. It can't be justified at all. Yes, you want 20%, and we give you 15%. It's too low. It can't be justified, but it can't be justified if you don't lower it at all. Lu Benlu said. Da-Fei was tricked. Then, Boss Lu, give me a solution. Since there's a 5% difference in price, let's each take a step back. Lu Benlu said, 17. 5% is the most suitable price. But in terms of age, you have to call me Big Brother. I won't let you down, so I'll give you an extra 0. 5%. 18%. It'll be easier for me and you to answer to that. I'll accept a little loss. After that, Lu Benlu also reminded Da-Fei, because I know that Brother Da-Fei has just taken over so many important things. If I don't give you face and really ruin the cooperation between us, I'm afraid that Mr. Bien will have some bad ideas about you. Lu Benlu knew what Da-Fei was afraid of and worried about. Therefore, Lu Benliu's every point hit Da-Fei's mind. How could Da-Fei not be afraid? Brother Da-Fei, think about it carefully. I'm not full yet. I'll eat something more. Lu Benlu continued to eat his morning tea. Su Yun and Qin Wan also understood what was going on. This meant that the commission had not been discussed properly. The Australian region's stacking shop had raised the price. Clearly, this meant that the business was not doing well. It was not easy for these people to make a living. Otherwise, no one would play the game of raising the price on the ground. Everyone knew the risks of raising the price on the spot. The fact that they dared to do so also showed that they had nothing to fear. This was because all the stackers in the Australian region were raising the price on the spot. They were not the only ones. This situation was actually a good situation. At least it showed that the management of the relevant departments in Australia played a certain role. However, this role was far from being able to solve and get rid of the current situation. But Su Yun believed that sooner or later, even those who had dirty money in the inland would rather spend 50% or even 60% than find someone to launder money for them. Da Fei was silent for a long time, and finally gave in. "I'll call and ask Mr. Shuang." After saying that, Da Fei got up and walked to the side of the window. The phone was quickly connected. Da Fei said hello carefully. Mr. Shuang's slightly dignified voice came from the phone at the same time. "How is it? You've been gone for so long. Have you settled the matter?" "Mr. Shuang. The price. The other party thinks it is a bit too high." After Da Fei finished, he waited for Mr. Shuang's reply with a little panic. Finally, Mr. Shuang replied, "Then you are still quite useless." Hearing this, Da Fei's heart sank instantly. If Mr. Shuang said such words, he would not be able to do business in the future. "Mr. Shuang, the situation is like this." Da Fei wanted to explain his current situation. He wanted to tell Mr. Shuang that the other party was willing to pay Uncle Yun to contact other stacking men. But before he said this, Mr. Shuang interrupted Da Fei. "I don't need to listen to your explanation. You know what I value most. It is the result. Do you understand?" "I'm sorry, Mr. Shuang." Da Fei had to lower his head. "I didn't get the result I wanted." Mr. Shuang's voice was a little cold. "What did you say when I asked you to deal with it?" "I remember you patted your chest and told me that there was no problem. Now you tell me that the situation is different." Chapter 3608. Da Fei didn't dare to say anything at this moment, for fear that he would irritate Mr. Closed. Mr. Closed was obviously a person with good self-control. He didn't vent his anger, but asked silently, "How much will they pay?" 18%. Da Fei answered carefully. He hoped that the price could satisfy Mr. Closed. If Mr. Closed was satisfied with the price, he might change his attitude towards him. 18%, 20%. Do you know the difference? Mr. Closed suddenly asked gently. Da Fei felt that Mr. Closed's tone seemed to be able to accept the price, so he replied, "Only 2 percentage points." "Yes, only 2 percentage points." Mr. Closed emphasized one word. "This means that I earn 2 million less for every 100 million yuan in circulation. Every year, our cooperation with them is as high as 10 billion yuan. Just because you only give me 2 percentage points less, my annual loss is at least 200 million yuan." Da Fei was petrified. He was extremely panicked. Maybe this time, he would lose everything when he went back. "Now do you also think that only you earn 200 million yuan less?" Mr. Closed said again. "I'm sorry, Mr. Closed. I really don't know. I don't want you to lose so much, Da Fei didn't know how to explain in a panic. Mr. Closed was very disappointed with Da Fei, but what was done could not be undone. He had already called. If he didn't relax a little, the business would be over. If Datian and Lu Benlu were to talk, they could definitely get 20% of the price. Datian had more means than this guy. "You are not ready to help me do big things." Mr. Closed shook his head. "I'm very disappointed, very disappointed. Now you deal with it according to the current situation. It doesn't make any sense to drag it on." Da Fei nodded and answered in a low voice. After Mr. Closed hung up the phone, he dared to put the phone back in his pocket. At this moment, Da Fei looked back and saw Lu Benlu, who was still eating. The anger in his heart suddenly burned. If it weren't for this bastard, he wouldn't have been taught a lesson so miserably. Maybe because he didn't do well this time, Mr. Closed would not give him a chance in the future. This was not impossible. Da Fei was worried that he would ruin his future because of this little thing. One had to know that he had just been promoted and had yet to fully experience what it was like to be a big brother. "What do you think?" Lu Benlu looked up at Da Fei and asked with a smile. Da Fei's anger suddenly disappeared, because he knew very well that Mr. Closed didn't want to lose this business. If he screwed things up again, it meant that he would be skinned for a long time. I think Mr. Shuang is a straightforward person, so I like to do business with him. Lu Benlu smiled. He could see the result from Dafei's expression. Obviously, everything was settled now. Manager Lu, let's do as you say. Dafei's voice sounded dejected. At this time, Dafei had completely admitted defeat. However, he did not feel that his loss was shameful. After all, the other party also gave him an 18% commission, which was a lot more than before. It was just that the cost of this line of work was obviously much higher than before. Many things didn't cost anything before, but now they did. There were more and more people who needed to be connected. The more connections needed to be connected, the higher the cost would be. This was why Mr. Closed had to increase the commission. In the years before there was no supervision, anyone who had a little spare money and could get involved with the Inland Underground Money House would use their resources in Macau to collude with the inland rich local tycoons to launder money. When there was no supervision, everyone's competitive pressure was too great, so the price was so low. In fact, at the very beginning, those guys who didn't know how to safely transfer the money out of the country would rather spend 30% of the commission to launder the money. But as time went by, more and more people who had a lot of black money found them to launder money, so they didn't have enough money to play with. Therefore, in order to keep customers, on the one hand, they improved their strength, and on the other hand, they had to reduce the commission price. He didn't know when it happened, but the price of the commission had plummeted to 10%. Although the money was less, they could still make a lot of money. After all, the black money was endless. It was just that the anti-corruption in the mainland was serious now, which made the Macau region strictly investigate people involved in money laundering. In a short period of time, many people were arrested for investigation. Even if they were released, they were fined a lot. In their words, even if they did not die, they would be skinned alive. So now that it was so difficult to do things, it was too ridiculous to only give a commission of 10%. They were not treated as human beings at all. After all, they were also in a high investment and high return industry. The price used to be low because there were no accidents. Now that there were risks, they would inevitably work together to slowly raise the price back to more than 30%, or even higher. If the economic crackdown would continue, they believed that it would rise to 50% sooner or later. If they wanted to launder money, they would split it 50-50. They would never do it without a 50% commission. Perhaps this day would come soon. However, if such a day really came, the risk of stacking was unimaginable. There was no free lunch in the world. If you wanted to get more, you had to take more risks. This truth not only applied to people who worked hard, but also to people who used crooked ways to earn ill-gotten wealth. The whole world knew that people would not be rich without ill-gotten wealth, but everyone knew that ill-gotten wealth was not easy to earn. If one could spend ill-gotten wealth with peace of mind, in the end, it would only let people die with peace of mind. Although Lu Benlu suppressed Dafei this time, what about the next time? He believed that before the commission increased to a suitable price, his every transaction would not be particularly smooth. This might mean that in the next 2 months, 3 months, or even half a year, or even a year, he had to fight a battle of wits and courage with these stacking guys. Lu Benlu couldn't help but frown. It seemed that his following days would not be easy. Every time the commission increased, President Chuan would inevitably be unhappy, so Lu Benlu felt particularly helpless. Originally, he did this to make President Chuan happy, because every time he appeared, it meant that a large amount of President Chuan's money flowed out of the country and was safely transferred to the account he asked to be transferred. Now, every time he came, he would make President Chuan lose a lot of money. Chapter 3609. Although this matter made Dafei feel frustrated, since it had already happened, he had nothing to complain about. It was time to go back and report. Lu Benlu also prepared to go back to the hotel to pack up his belongings and go directly to Macau to prepare for the next step. Qin Wan immediately informed Uncle Qin and Man Yu to gather at the port. Because Lu Benlu refused to take Dafei's car back, he did not want to see Dafei's ugly face all the way. He was very sure that Dafei would not give him a good face because he caused Dafei to face Mr. Guan's ugly face after returning. This might not be a happy thing for Dafei. Since Lu Benlu did not take Dafei's car back, the most convenient and fast way to go to Macau was to take a boat. Therefore, Su Yun directly took them to Macau by boat and waited there. They didn't have to wait too long before they saw Lu Benlu coming over by boat. Lu Benlu took a taxi and left with Su Yun and the others following closely behind. Macau was connected to Haizhu City on the mainland. In fact, it was divided into 2 islands and 3 regions. The most convenient way to come to Macau was through Haizhu City. However, Lu Benlu had to meet some people, so he went to the port area first. After all, it was more convenient for the middlemen like Uncle Chin and Dafei to go between Hong Kong and Macau. The upper half of Ao District and Haizhu City were adjacent to the Ao District Peninsula, which was the old city area of Ao District. It was the place where the local residents lived. The lower half was more interesting. The north of the lower half was the Taizai District, which was the gathering place of those high-class casinos and hotels. The south was much less crowded. To put it bluntly, if one did not come to gamble, who would come to Macau? There was nothing fun in this palm-sized place. One would get tired of it after a few days. If the rich people in the port area wanted to come to Macau to play, some of them directly came by helicopter. Lu Benliu's goal was very clear. He went straight to the Taiping area. In fact, there were a lot of hotels in the entire Macau region compared to this palm-sized place. Cheap hotels were really rare. It was almost impossible to find an affordable hotel like the one in the mainland. However, the hotels in the peninsula region were slightly newer than the ones in Taipa. It was a pity that only those who mainly came for sightseeing would stay in Macau for convenience. However, Lu Benlu came for the casino, so he went straight to Taipa to find a hotel. Milky Way, Golden Sand City, and Xinhao City. These 3 regions had the most hotels. Marriott, Broadway, Milky Way, Okura, Yuerong, Carlton, The Venetian, Conrad, Holiday, Sheraton, Bailey Palace, Parisian, New Hautien, Pictures, Hard Rock, Crown, Grand Hyatt. After all, the Macau region was only 33 square kilometers and had a population of 600,000. Any county town in Huaxia is at least 50 square kilometers, right? But whose county could have so many hotels? Lu Benlu was quite familiar with the Macau region. He went straight to the hotel in the Milky Way Resort. Although the price was quite high, Su Yun and the others found out that the guests of the Milky Way Resort could enter the Tianlang Taoyuan Water Park for free to play. When they arrived at the hotel, it was almost 3 in the afternoon. At this time, it was also the time for these hotels to start check-in. It was a little late compared to the mainland's check-in at noon. The main reason was that many guests played too late at night and couldn't get up before noon. Uncle Chin and Man, you were really new to this place. After Lu Benlu checked into the hotel, he seemed to be in a very relaxed mood. He had completed the commission that the president had given him, so he was in a very good mood. He really went to the water park to play. The temperature here was much warmer than the central and northern parts of the mainland. If he didn't have fun, he would be letting himself down. Uncle Chin and Man Yu also went to the water park. Su Yun and Chin Wanner were on standby, waiting for Lu Benliu's next move. It would be more convenient for them to follow him in time. Uncle Chin and Man Yu followed him to the water park to see if he had arranged to meet anyone else. However, this disappointed them. Other than flirting with girls in the water park, Lu Benlu didn't do anything else. With his handsome looks and elegant temperament, Lu Benlu really flirted with many girls. Uncle Chin felt a little embarrassed. Fortunately, Man Yu's personality didn't care at all. Lu Benlu played for more than an hour before leaving the water park. Halfway through, he received a call and quickly rushed back to his room. Su Yun nodded at Chin Wan. This meant that something had happened to Lu Benlu. In the Taizai district, almost all the hotels had a shuttle bus provided by the big casinos. The guests liked to call it the fortune bus. Not only did they travel to and from the hotel, but they also traveled to and from the airport, docks, and ports. They didn't cost anything. However, some of the stricter hotels required one to show a hotel reservation form before they could get on the bus. There were also restrictions on children. This was quite good. After Lu Benlu left the hotel, he boarded a fortune bus. Su Yun followed him alone and gestured for Qin Wan and the other two to take the bus behind to prevent their faces from being familiar and arousing Lu Benliu's suspicion. As long as Su Yun could follow, they could contact each other when they reached the place. After Su Yun got on the bus, he realized that these free fortune buses didn't only have guests who went to the casino to play, but also backpackers who were poor. That was because some of the big casinos also provided shuttle buses to New Road, Daesan Bus, Macau Tower, and other attractions. The hotels in the Taizai district also had circulating routes that connected every hotel. Almost all the places they wanted to go were covered. As long as these backpackers arranged their routes properly, they could save a lot of transportation fees. As there were many people on the bus, Su Yun didn't have to deliberately avoid anything. Lu Benliu's attention wasn't on Su Yun at all. Lu Benliu's attention was all on a beautiful single female backpacker. It seemed that this kind of girl had a strong attraction to Lu Benlu. Of course, it wasn't just Lu Benlu. Almost everyone would be attracted by this kind of single and beautiful girl. Everyone seemed to be curious and pondered. Did such a beautiful girl need to travel on a budget? Did she still need to be a backpacker? Didn't she worry about encountering danger when she hitched a ride on the road or stayed in a hotel? Obviously, this society was restless. So many things made people couldn't help but worry, think, and ponder how dangerous this thing was. However, after thinking too much, many people became numb. Too many things happened, and many people became numb. Anyway, this kind of danger appeared around everyone. Beautiful girls shouldn't be too pretentious. Being too pretentious often didn't have any good results. Any normal person understood this kind of thing. Chapter 36:10. Anyone who had been to Macau would know that the shopping malls and shops here could basically swipe the UnionPay card to settle the bill. However, the restaurants only accepted cash in Australian dollars, while the casinos used Hong Kong dollars. If ordinary tourists wanted to play, they would use cash to play if they were less than 5,000 renminbi. Therefore, customers like Lu Benlu needed a relatively large amount of Hong Kong dollars. This was also the reason why he had to get the help of the stacking boys to launder money for Chuan Shan. Without the help of the stacking boys, they would not be able to get such a large sum of money. The money that the Chuan Shan president had in China could not be directly exchanged for Hong Kong dollars. Lu Benlu got out of the car halfway before reaching the casino. This was because the young and beautiful backpacker had gotten out of the car. Of course, in addition to her, a few other people also got out of the car. Su Yun was a little puzzled. Lu Benlu should not be so immature. It was impossible for him to delay such a big thing because of a woman. Su Yun had no choice but to get out of the car and secretly follow them. What Su Yun did not expect was that Lu Benliu's target was the single girl. The girl went to a tofu flower shop, and Lu Benlu followed her. Su Yun immediately cursed in his heart. This bastard was really relaxed. He did not take the current situation seriously at all. There were many people in the tofu flower shop. It seemed to be a famous shop in the port area. Su Yun did not hesitate. He followed them in like an ordinary customer and ordered a serving in the corner. Soon, a bowl of white tofu pudding was served on the table. There was no other decoration except for condensed milk. The taste was monotonous. However, there was a teapot full of ginger sugar water on the table. After Su Yun put a little ginger sugar water in it and tasted it, the tofu pudding became tender and smooth. The sweet taste was refreshing. After a while, the ginger began to enter the taste buds, suppressing the spread of the sweetness. The taste was very layered. No wonder there were so many people in such an inconspicuous shop. In fact, in Confucius's former residence, Qiufu, there was also a snack called caramel. It was similar to the taste buds. After eating the tofu pudding, the girl stood up and started to help. At this time, The few people who followed her to see if there was any profit to be made were stunned. "Brother, there's nothing to do. I'll go first." The girl tidied up some messy things and said to the boss of the tofu flower shop. The boss nodded. Although Su-Yun didn't know if the others had figured it out or not, he had already figured it out. This girl was the tofu flower shop's shill. She would pretend to be single and attract the attention of tourists who were wondering if they could have a chance to have a romantic encounter with her. Then, she would take the free bus and bring them to her shop. This was truly a brilliant move. Once the shop became popular, many people would naturally think that it was a famous snack. Although Su-Yun didn't know if other famous snacks were made famous by using this method, if someone wrote a travel article a few years later and recommended people to travel to Macau to eat this tofu pudding, Su-Yun could be sure that this shop was made by using this method. Lu Ben-Lu seemed to be very disappointed. The people who were as disappointed as him left the tofu flower shop one after another. When the second rickshaw arrived, Lu Ben-Lu got on. Su-Yun didn't get on the car. He saw Qin Wan-er and the others in the car. Qin Wan-er and the others clearly looked surprised when Lu Ben-Lu got on the car. However, Lu Ben-Lu wasn't in the mood to observe the situation in the car because of his disappointment. At this moment, Su-Yun had already sent the situation to Qin Wan-er's phone. He told Qin Wan-er and the others to keep an eye on it. He would be there soon. Not long after, the rickshaw stopped at the entrance of a super casino in Macau. Lu Ben-Lu got off the car and prepared to enter. Qin Wan-er gave Uncle Qin and Man Yu a look, indicating for them to keep an eye on him. She stayed at the door and waited for Su-Yun. Since the Macau government had stipulated that people under the age of 21 were not allowed to enter the casino, Man Yu, who was lucky enough to have a baby face, was directly given special attention. Fortunately, she had brought her own documents, such as a passport, a Hong Kong and Macau pass, and everything else. After all, these documents were also needed to apply for a membership card in the casino. The casinos in Macau were the same as those in Las Vegas. They all provided free performances to attract guests. There was one right at the door. Qin Wan-er watched the performance at the door while waiting for Su-Yun. Although the performance lake outside the casino was a little smaller than the water dance in Las Vegas, the effect was just as vivid. It was like a young girl bending her enchanting body to the waltz. When Man Yu entered the hotel, she was shocked by the aura inside. As soon as she entered the hotel, she saw the dragon and the auspicious tree alternating in the middle of the hall. The ceiling here had a delicately carved roof in the shape of the 12 zodiac signs. There was a screen inside, and the floor was an arc-shaped ball. The dragon and the auspicious tree should be hidden inside. How can it be so luxurious? Man Yu exclaimed. This place was really a gold-swallowing hole. She didn't even dare to think about how many people's families would be ruined in this place every year. Uncle Qin said in a low voice, "Keep an eye on it. Now is not the time for us to admire it." "Got it, Uncle Qin." Man Yu nodded and then stared at Lu Ben-Lu. Su-Yun also rushed to the casino. Seeing Qin Wan-er waiting for him, he asked, "Where are they?" "Lu Ben-Lu has already gone in. I got them to keep an eye on him," Qin Wan-er said. "Let's go quickly. Maybe he has already started to make a move." "No, if Lu Ben-Lu wants to make a move, he will definitely be invited to the VIP room first." Su-Yun said, "He is probably just playing around. He came here for work and didn't take the opportunity to have fun. Wouldn't it be stupid?" Qin Wan-er was stunned. "How can you be so sure? There is nothing special in the normal room. Anyone who wins or loses millions and still doesn't change their expression will be invited to the VIP room." Su-Yun smiled. "This is common sense. You didn't come here to gamble before, right?" Qin Wan-er said suspiciously. "I don't have so much money to gamble." "I gamble," Su-Yun said. "You know how to gamble?" Qin Wan-er didn't believe him. "This thing is nothing more than luck. It's all about the probability." Su-Yun said, "They say that if you gamble for a long time, you will lose. But I am not a person who gambles for a long time. If I come here once in a while, I might win a lot." You are really careless. Qin Wan shook her head helplessly. So, I might win even though I have never gambled before. That's right. That is the case. Su Yun said, people who come to Macau to gamble for the first time can usually win money back. The more people come, the more money they lose. The probability is that simple. Chapter 36:11. What if he is invited to the VIP lounge? Qin Wan was worried about this. They were not VIP members of this super casino. Su Yun looked indifferent. Let him go. If he wants to go, we can't do anything to him. But I need to know everything he does here, Qin Wan said anxiously. The VIP lounge is actually not a mysterious place. Su Yun, now that the global economy is in such a bad state, it is getting harder and harder to find rich people. There are even fewer people from China who are willing to spend money like water. Qin Wan was stunned for a moment. She suddenly realized what Su Yun was trying to do. As long as you have the attitude of not caring about spending money in the casino, there will naturally be stackers coming to you, Su Yun. Otherwise, how do you think the stackers in Macau survive? The big gamblers who won or lost millions of dollars without changing their expressions were the favorite of the casinos in Macau. They were also the big fat meat in the eyes of the stackers. All of them would be invited to the VIP lounge. Moreover, these big gamblers also enjoyed playing their favorite baccarat comfortably in the VIP lounge. The main source of income for the casinos in Macau was these big gamblers who did not like to be exposed. More than 80% of the casino's income also came from them. Everyone in the world knew that the richest and most willing to squander money were the rich people in Huaxia. However, these rich people were not famous. Bill Gates was rich from playing Microsoft. Fei was known as the god of stocks. Jen Lin had the powerful ability to use land to build houses that ordinary people could not afford. Father Yun's online shopping was like a cornucopia that made money every day. There were two types of rich people who did not like to be exposed. The first type was the real scary capitalists. In terms of personal wealth, they could kill the so-called rich people above. Some people might not believe it. But in fact, the big capitalist on Wall Street, Morgan Private Bank, had assets of close to $3 trillion. Think about it, how much did the boss of Morgan Private Bank hold? No one knew how much it was, but a financial group in Japan owned 84% of the shares. Just the assets of this Japanese financial company alone exceeded $1.5 trillion. Therefore, this Wall Street private bank's big boss already had a wealth of over $1 trillion in the Japanese financial company alone. Looking at it this way, Jen Lin's $30 billion worth was nothing in front of this person. The assets of Morgan Bank were close to $3 trillion, which was even more than the GDP of many large countries. If all the assets of this big capitalist were added up, it was simply unimaginable. The United States was founded on wealth, but they gave the title of richest man to someone who wasn't in the financial circle. No matter how one looked at it, it was a little strange. To put it bluntly, big capitalists didn't like their assets being calculated by others. Therefore, these kinds of people would never appear on the rich list. The wealth of those who appeared on the rich list was nothing to these big capitalists. For example, when you have tens of thousands of yuan, you will find it ridiculous to see a person with hundreds of yuan standing in front of a group of people who only have tens, a few yuan, a few cents, or even a few cents, wearing the hat of the richest person, right? But would you really take out tens of thousands of dollars and say to those who only had a few cents, "I'm the real rich man"? Absolutely not. No one would do that because it was meaningless. For those who looked down on those who only had a few cents, why would they need to prove anything in front of these people? And a person who liked to show off with money didn't have much of a connotation, so it was impossible to become an invisible rich man. The second kind of people who didn't like their private wealth to be exposed were the invisible rich people from Huaxia. These people were very powerful. They might not be comparable to the super invincible Wall Street capitalists in the United States. But for the second kind of people, those who were labeled as rich were also not worth mentioning. It could even be said that if it weren't for their support, many Hua Xia rich people would be no different from ordinary people, so their wealth was not comparable to those people at all. The wealth of this kind of people couldn't be exposed. Where did the money come from? Buddha said, it couldn't be exposed. To put it more seriously, if it was exposed, it would probably cause a peasant uprising or something like that, right? If Bill Gates gambled and lost a few million at once, would he feel the pinch? Of course, he would feel the pinch because he earned the money himself. As long as the money was earned by oneself, no one would be willing to squander it. People who won or lost a few $1,000,000 at once obviously didn't earn that money through hard work. No one would be willing to gamble with their hard-earned money. Only dirty money, would make people feel that they didn't care. A normal person who earned $10,000 a month definitely wouldn't be willing to spend $8,000 on food, drinks, and clothes. But if a thief stole $10,000, don't talk about spending $8,000. Even if all $10,000 were wasted, they wouldn't feel the pinch. Small principles and big principles were the same. So those who couldn't see the light of day went to the VIP lounge. And in the VIP lounge, there were many people who couldn't see the light of day, so it didn't matter. If a mouse crossed the street, people would worry about being shouted at and beaten. But if there were dozens or hundreds of them, there was nothing to be afraid of. Once the dirty things gathered together, they wouldn't care. All the so-called worries and apprehensions would be swept away. Su Yun was very clear that if they wanted to go to the VIP lounge, the easiest way was to not gamble with money like it was money. As long as we squander money like it's dirt, someone will definitely notice us. Su Yun smiled slightly. Don't worry. Let's take it slow. I came with you this time because I know there are some things that will make you feel helpless. Qin Wan nodded helplessly. There were indeed too many things that made her feel helpless. She had always felt that she had been improving in the past 2 years. She had always been in a space of improvement. She felt that she was completely different from the Qin Wan, who always caused trouble when she did things. But in the face of some things that she had no experience in, Qin Wan still felt helpless. However, Su Yun could still feel the change in Qin Wan. In the past, even if Qin Wan didn't know how to deal with something, she would do it with her own hot blood. In the end, she might mess it up and even cause trouble. But now it was different. Qin Wan had learned not to act rashly. If it was the Qin Wan of the past, when she saw Lu Ben Lu and the 3 young men who seemed to be stacked, she would be ready to catch them. Growth was always accompanied by many changes. Qin Wan believed that her change would make her more mature. She was no longer the little girl who caused trouble for Su Yun. Chapter 36:12. Let's go. Let's go in, Su Yun said to Qin Wan. Qin Wan nodded and followed Su Yun into the casino. However, when Qin Wan saw the 12 zodiac ceilings and the huge fortune tree, she was as surprised as Manu. Obviously, she did not expect this at all. Everything that happened afterward surprised Qin Wan. Compared with this place, those small illegal casinos in the country were simply dwarfed by the big ones. Su Yun casually exchanged 2 million chips. Qin Wan was so surprised that she almost couldn't close her mouth. 100,000 yuan worth of chips. Just these 20 small round chips cost 2 million yuan. If Qin Wan was not worried that she would attract other people's attention, she really wanted to ask if Su Yun was crazy. Let's go. Let's find a place to play casually. Su Yun smiled. Casually play. Even if it is to attract the attention of the stacking boys, you don't have to exchange so many chips. 2 million. If you lose this, I can't apply for so much funding for you when I go back. Qin Wan frowned and lowered her voice. Even if it was needed to solve the case, even if she could write an invoice and bring it back, it was impossible. She had never heard that this could be reimbursed, and she had never heard that following a suspect required such a huge amount of money. In fact, Qin Wan was already having a headache because it was too expensive to stay here. Although Su Yun was not short of money, she felt that this was not the cost that Su Yun should pay. Qin Wan still hoped that she could find a way to reimburse him. Qin Wan was not the kind of person who cared about public funds, but when she went out to do things, she would stick to her word. She could lose a little, but she couldn't lose Su Yun. This is a lot? Su Yun smiled slightly. You underestimate the gambling industry in the Macau region. This is a gambling city. So what if it is a gambling city? 2 million is money that many people can't earn in their lifetime. Qin Wan felt distressed. I didn't say that I would lose. Su Yun grinned. The Macau region has a history of gambling for 170 years. The entire region is relying on this income to develop. Isn't it too easy to earn money in the casino? Are all gamblers as generous as you? Qin Wan said in disbelief. I don't believe that everyone is so rich. Of course not everyone is like me, but there are definitely many people who are more generous than me. Su Yun, do you think 100,000 chips is very high? Nonsense. Qin Wan said, 100,000 chips is still not enough. If a few people play and place bets casually, the winning or losing on the table would be over 1 million, right? If you really think that this is a big bet, then you're really a little ignorant. The biggest chip in the casino is more than 100,000 yuan. Su Yun smiled slightly. Qin Wan suddenly thought of something and nodded. Right, I remember that there was a message from the Cross Association. The goddaughter of some mysterious person, Mei Mei, showed off a chip of 500,000 yuan. Aha, 500,000 yuan in the VIP lounge is nothing at all. They're even 1 million, and the biggest is 2 million. Su Yun, do you think this is still considered money? Just one of his chips is more than what I have. Qin Wan gasped. Do you think that Mei Mei came to the Macau casino to help her godfather launder money? Don't talk nonsense. Su Yun said, anyway, I remember that this guy was arrested right after he came back from gambling in Australia. Even if this matter is implicated, no one would know about it. Since there's no news that dares to expose the inside story, it's not something an ordinary person would know. Qin Wan's eyes widened. However, if this is not involved, who do you think will believe it? Su Yun. No matter how rich she is, no matter how much she sells herself for glory, she will not lose 260 million yuan. Even if Brother Sikong went to play and lost 260 million yuan, he would be beaten by his father with the sole of his shoe, right? Qin Wan suddenly realized that the gambling was just a cover. At that time, the country was exposing and cracking down on money laundering. The Macau gambling industry was under the influence of anti-money laundering. Therefore, when Mei Mei played in the Macau region, it could almost be concluded that she was helping someone launder money. No matter how rich an ordinary girl's family was, no matter how powerful her godfather was, if she was not playing with dirty money, he would not be willing to let her lose like this. Su Yun saw that Qin Wan was a little confused and patted her. What are you thinking? Don't think too much about things that you can't control. Thinking too much will only give you a headache. Qin Wan nodded. Let me tell you, there are many rich people who bet 10 or 8 at a time. If they lose, they will lose tens of millions in this place. Su Yun said faintly, of course, this kind of gambling scene is not something that ordinary people like us can see. It comes from the VIP room where idlers are not allowed to enter. If the people in the VIP room are not afraid of being exposed, why does the casino have to make the rule that idlers are not allowed to enter? Qin Wan sneered. If I am really so rich that I don't treat money as money, and the money is clean, I really think it is cool to gamble in front of ordinary people. Su Yun laughed. He did not expect Qin Wan to be this kind of Qin Wan. The guests in the VIP room are also the casino's people. They are divided into 3 classes. For this reason, a special customer service department has been set up. Su Yun continued, guests of different classes will enjoy different services. Qin Wan nodded and listened carefully. The guests with the highest treatment can enjoy the best suite in the casino hotel for free, the best restaurant, any luxurious car is a piece of cake, and they can even get a huge amount of chips without having to take out cash, Su Yun said. Based on my performance so far, Lu Ben Lu is not the guest with the highest treatment. Qin Wan shook her head. Maybe he wants to hide it. It is possible. Su Yun nodded. Then, how do you think the casino knows how much money these guests have? Qin Wan was very confused. In fact, the casino's informants have already formed an amazing network. Sometimes, when some distinguished guests just enter the casino, the guest's information has already been faxed to a certain department of the casino, so the casino can immediately respond. Even if the guest does not have so much cash, the casino will give the chips to the guest within the limit of the guest's wealth. Su Yun said, moreover, many stacked chips will take the initiative to arrange people in our inland areas to inquire. Qin Wan looked at Su Yun. You are the boss of the Sky Entertainment Group. In their eyes, you should be a distinguished guest, right? Fortunately, my exposure is not that high. Su Yun bitterly smiled. If Zhua Meiyan came, there would probably be staff here to serve her. If we don't spend money like water, we won't be able to attract attention. Chapter 36:13. Obviously, the VIP lounge was not a place that ordinary people could enter. The relationship between the VIP lounge and the owner of the casino was similar to the relationship between the owner of the booth and the owner of the venue, but it was not the same. At the same time, the owners of the VIP gambling halls were not ordinary people. They each had their own background. Investing in a gambling hall could be said to have harsh conditions. A small gambling hall needed about 200 million yuan of banknotes. The layout of the hall was usually 3 baccarat, 1 blackjack, and 1 big or small. The small hall only had 3 baccarat. From this point, it could be seen that the inland rich seemed to be particularly fond of baccarat. Because the parent company of the super casino owned a large number of hotels, transportation, food, and even aviation industries in Macau, the company would give each VIP lounge a corresponding hotel room, plane ticket, food, entertainment, and other services for free according to the sales quota of chips in each VIP lounge, so that each lounge could better attract guests. Of course, the parent company of the super casino would also help the VIP lounge with good sales performance in the port area to set up a VIP reception. There was also a very luxurious casino in Macau that provided value-added services for VIPs when it opened. The 50 luxurious VIP rooms on the upper floors were not open to the public. These rooms were only open to the VIPs who came to the casino. It was said that if the VIP lounge spent more than $700 million of chips per month, they could get 30% of the profit. Su Yun and Qin Wan came to a table of baccarat and started to play cards. The dealer seemed to have caught a cold. Qin Wan happened to see him throw the paper to wipe his nose out of the counter. Qin Wan frowned. It was not like there were no waste paper baskets here. In fact, this is to avoid suspicion. Su Yun could see Qin Wan's displeasure. There are TV cameras installed everywhere in the casino. If there aren't 1,000, there are at least 800 of them. The VIP room is even more crowded. They record the situation in every corner of the casino from all kinds of angles. Qin Wan was shocked. Then we can't go to the bathroom in the casino? Of course there is no bathroom. Su Yun smiled helplessly. These devices are only used to supervise the casino staff. They are not targeted at the customers. Qin Wan saw a dealer behind her preparing to leave the table. She skillfully faced the camera and spread out her hands, flapping her clothes to show that she did not take anything. Did he do this on purpose? Qin Wan turned around and asked Su Yun. Su Yun nodded. Yes, I did it on purpose. This is because once the casino discovers that the staff members are cheating, they will be fired without a doubt. Are we going to wait for the stack now? Qin Wan asked. That's right. Su Yun smiled. They'll take the initiative to come to you. Of course, they're usually looking for a living. They won't come to you right from the start. Ordinary stacking boys were actually staff members who served the gamblers. They would serve them tea, help them change chips, and deliver food. The job of the stacking shop was to find sources of gamblers and encourage gamblers to gamble at the casino. This would increase the casino's gambling income, and they would earn commission from it. This system had existed since the establishment of the Macau Tourism and Entertainment Company, but it was not common. In the middle of the 1980s, Macau's casinos set up gambling halls. In order to find more gamblers, the role of middlemen became more important. Hence, this system became popular. It could be said that the stacking shop contributed a lot to the local finances. A competent stacking shop only needed to take a look at what the customer was playing to know whether he was a big gambler or a small gambler. There were definitely no big gamblers playing the slot machines in the lobby. Most of them were first-time gamblers or novice players. Only those who won and lost large amounts of money without a change in expression would be invited into the VIP room to play baccarat comfortably. Qin Wan was not interested in watching Su Yun play cards. Instead, she looked at Uncle Qin and Man Yu, who were not far away. They had been staring at Lu Ben Lu the entire time. It seemed that they had also exchanged some chips, but they were not of high denominations. In this super large casino, Qin Wan almost did not see foreigners with high noses and blonde hair. Most of them were Asians, and most of them were from the mainland. With the global economic downturn, there were fewer and fewer rich people with blonde hair and blue eyes. In fact, it was not only the casinos in Macau that were like this. Even Las Vegas was the same. The casinos were mainly Asians, especially in the VIP room, where people with yellow skin and black hair occupied the dominant position. It was obvious at a glance which country's people were richer. No, to be precise, it was obvious at a glance which country had more people who became rich first. Su Yun's mind was all on playing cards. He participated in blackjack, big or small, and all kinds of nonsense. Through careful observation and listening, as well as judgment of people's hearts, Su Yun obviously won more than he lost. Even a few professional dealers had noticed Su Yun, a man who was plagued with good luck. This was because there were very few people in the ordinary hall who would play with chips worth 100,000, and Su Yun casually threw out a few chips. These dealers, who were serious from beginning to end and did not smile, were powerful people in the casino. Dealing cards and changing chips were the work of these dealers. Why were they called the masters in the casino? To put it bluntly, they helped the casino to be the dealer. They were the people who helped the casino owner win money face to face with these crazy gamblers, so the casino owner would definitely not hire a fool to be a dealer. Of course, these people were all good people with no bad records. At this moment, the dealer in front of Su Yun dealt the cards skillfully. They had all undergone professional training because gambling required them to grasp the rhythm. The better they grasped the rhythm, the higher the casino's profits would be. Think about it. If the dealer's actions were sloppy, not only the gamblers would not be energetic, but the whole casino would also seem lazy and not have any vitality. Therefore, these professional bankers were all quite skilled. Although they were professional gamblers, they would never participate in gambling themselves. Su Yun looked at the time. He was very clear that he would lose if he gambled for a long time. Many years ago, Su Yun knew an uncle who had been a dealer in Macau for 21 years. The uncle talked to him about how to control himself when he gambled in Macau. The most important trick was to not enter the casino for more than half an hour. If you won 5 rounds, you should quickly change the money and leave. Also, the starting bet should be as small as possible so that it was easy to make a loss. A good mentality was a basic quality. Regardless of winning or losing, you should leave within half an hour. If you gambled for a long time, you would lose. The same was true for the masters. Of course, many gamblers who played in the casinos in Macau knew this trick, but few people could act according to this trick. Generally, gamblers had a bad mentality. Why could Su Yun win? It was precisely because he was not a gambler, and he did not have the mentality of a gambler. In this case, people would be more clear-headed. Chapter 36:14. Just when Su Yun won another round, there was a person next to Su Yun who could afford to play chips as high as 100,000 yuan in an ordinary gambling hall. However, he cursed dejectedly. It seemed that he had lost all the 1 million yuan he brought this time. He wanted to recoup his losses but had no chips, so he was very angry. However, A young man next to him said a few words to him. The dejected man suddenly cheered up. How much can you lend me at most? I don't have the final say on this. The young man said faintly, this needs you to go over and talk about it in detail. I can only help to bring you over. Needless to say, for a long time, in addition to exchanging chips for guests to gain a huge profit, sometimes the stacking boys in the Australian region also referred gamblers to borrow money to gain benefits. The loans in this case were obviously the kind with high interest. In fact, these stacking boys would not directly participate in the usury activities. Most of them were like this person, doing the referral thing, so it was not involved in illegal activities. There were many people like this stacking boy who were engaged in the usury referral activities. Therefore, the system of allowing stacking boys to exist in the casino was actually a double-edged sword. It had proven to be very effective in promoting and expanding the gambling market in the Australian region. It played a role in promoting the development of the gambling industry in the Australian region. On the other hand, it did indeed give rise to many negative problems such as usury, the involvement of the underworld, and so on. Soon, the gamblers who had lost red eyes followed the young man next to him to borrow from the usury. Are the usury here blatant? Qin Wan also witnessed all of this and looked at Su Yun in disbelief. Su Yun smiled slightly. Blatant? If you put it that way, many loan sharks in the country are actually quite brazen. It can't be helped. It's not easy to get bank loans these days. After it is approved, too many people can't pay it back. Usury has become a reasonable industry. Qin Weina had to nod and sigh. The bad debts of the major banks in the country were shocking. In the case of the global economy, it was common for companies to fail and not be able to repay their debts. There were also many people who could not repay their personal loans because of the pressure to survive. Last month, Qin Wan had heard that a police station had caught a thief with a bachelor's degree from Zhejiang University. This guy was very capable. He hid in the corner of a big shopping mall at night. When the mall was closed, he wore a mask and a hat and appeared with gold and branded watches. When the people in the police station interrogated him about the reason for the theft, he said that it was because he had applied for 7 to 8 bank overdraft cards. He had used the method of robbing Peter to pay Paul to get a few 100,000 yuan. It was all for his girlfriend's expenses. In the end, the hole couldn't be filled, so he had to resort to this method. Hearing this, many people were speechless. They really wondered how this guy got into Zhejiang University. It was too ridiculous. It's really a mess. Thinking of this, Qin Weina shook her head doubtfully. She sighed about the great harm of this credit card or overdraft card. Su Yun thought she was talking about the stacking and smiled. In fact, we only need to strengthen the legislation and clearly stipulate that the stacking is the role of the gambling middleman. The gambling middleman must be professionally trained and licensed, and he must show criminal records. He can only transfer legal loans to gamblers and other rights and obligations. I believe these negative things can be controlled. Qin Weiner was stunned for a moment and said to Su Yun, I don't have time to think about the legislation of Macau. Su Yun was ready to continue to bet, but he received a call from Ruan Qingshuang. He knew that they must be ready to come over for a vacation. How is it? Have you booked the tickets? Su Yun smiled and picked up the phone. Don't mention it. It is estimated that there is no way to go over in 2 or 3 days. Ruan Qingshuang said helplessly, the airport is on holiday. We also just announced that tomorrow, except for the staff on duty in a few departments, all the staff will be on holiday. Su Yun was stunned for a moment. What's the situation? Now the whole city can't live normally. Ruan Qingshuang smiled bitterly. The haze has reduced the visibility to only 2 or 3 meters. The traffic lights at the intersection are almost invisible. Now I don't have to worry about running a red light. Su Yun grinned. If you are here, you definitely won't be in the mood to joke. Ruan Qingshuang said, wait and see. If the situation improves in 2 days, then you can still consider going. If the weather stays like this, you can't even buy a direct ticket back. Su Yun also knew that there was no way. No one could do anything when encountering the haze. He remembered that a while ago, he read a short fantasy novel called Shredded Onion Man, written by Pen Spirit Sleepwalking. Didn't the haze beasts in the novel have been killed by Shredded Onion Man? Then why was there such a big haze? Could it be that the mysterious Chandra organization in the novel was resurrected again? Another monster that was more powerful than the haze beasts? Su-yun took a deep breath and sighed. In fact, he also knew that the novel was just a novel. The haze was not a haze beast at all. It was created by humans. The haze beasts were actually humans, and humans were such terrifying monsters. After hanging up Ruan Qingxuang's call, Su-yun explained the situation to Qin Wan-er. Qin Wan-er could not help but sigh. The weather in the north was really bad, especially in the prosperous central plains of Huaxia. The air quality in the north could not be compared to the south. They were not on the same level. The severity of the haze problem has reached the highest point in history. Su-yun shrugged his shoulders. I guess these people who launder money want to transfer their money abroad as soon as possible and then go abroad to live a clean life. The emissions from motor vehicles in the country are too serious, Qin Wan-er said. Su-yun suddenly sneered. Looking at all the so-called *T experts' research, almost all of them use motor vehicle emissions as the biggest crime to shift the focus of the public's attention away from the problem. It really has the effect of covering one's ears while stealing a bell. Qin Wan-er was stunned. Isn't it? Huaxia does have too many cars. Does Huaxia have more cars than the American Empire? Su-yun, although Huaxia has a lot of people, the American Empire has a lot of cars. They almost have one car per person. There's no situation like Huaxia, right? Qin Wan-er was speechless. Indeed, the total number of cars in the American Empire was not less than in Huaxia. More importantly, the American Empire still had old cars from decades ago that were still on the road. Wouldn't the emission standards of those cars not even reach Huaxia's National Level 1 standard? As for Huaxia, cars that were 10 years old had to wear a National Level 2 or 3 standard. Thinking about it carefully, it was really a bit of a trick to not let people drive old cars and use tricks to make people switch to new cars. Was this to stimulate consumption? Increase taxes? Or was there another purpose? If it was really for the sake of clean air, they might as well just issue a law that prohibited private cars in Huaxia. They would launch public transportation, make all public transportation free, increase public transportation by 10 times, and take back all private cars at their original price. Other than national level officials, other officials would not need to take cars. Anyway, dealing with anything was not a national, big matter. Chapter 36:15. The Americans' cars were generally more powerful than Huaxia's cars. The Americans often had super large displacement pickup trucks. 6.0 was very common. But what about Huaxia? The sales of small displacement trucks were more. 1, 6, 1, 4, or even smaller. So, the emissions of one car in the United States were more powerful than the emissions of 3 cars in Huaxia. Why didn't they have smog? You may not know, but the city we are in now has the highest density of cars in the world. Su-yun smiled slightly. That's right, it's the Macau region. In the 2 days you were here, was there smog? Qin Wan-er shook her head. There really wasn't. The American Empire has more cars than Huaxia. Countries like Luxembourg and Italy have higher car densities than Huaxia. Why didn't they have as much smog as Huaxia? Su-yun said, the car emissions shouldn't be blamed for this. Qin Wan-er looked at Su-yun and asked, then whose fault is this? The essence of the truth is that the greedy people don't want the public to know the truth. This may be the most fundamental source of Huaxia's current crisis. It is the most unscrupulous destruction of the natural environment and resources. Su-yun shook his head helplessly. Qin Wan-er's mood suddenly became inexplicably lost. Su-yun was right. Some people were blinded by greed and didn't care about the consequences of letting ordinary people bear the consequences. Once they had earned enough money, they would go abroad to enjoy themselves. Then, they would leave behind a mess for ordinary people to bear. I think the main reason for the smog is the expansion of the real estate industry in the past few years. It is the loss of control of the land problem and the reflection of the environmental collapse. Su Yun sighed. Of course, I'm not an expert. Maybe what I said doesn't make sense. But what I said is what I saw with my eyes, not what the experts analyzed with academic. The most important raw materials for Hua Xia's construction industry came from excavating mountains and setting off cannons. It came from the astronomical number of unscrupulous dirt trucks that moved the Green Mountains and turned them into countless matchbox-like buildings. Matthew had once hacked into the U.S. Empire satellite and stolen many pictures. Su Yun was lucky enough to see these pictures. Under the satellite, the biggest difference between Hua Xia's mountains and those in other countries was that there were large patches of yellow, like the bite marks of a dog. At that time, Su Yun felt that the dust pollution from these crazy dump trucks was the real culprit behind Hua Xia's smog. And behind it was the so-called project with astronomical figures. These so-called projects, no wonder they were moving rocks from the mountains to turn into cement and bricks. No wonder they were digging up barren land and moving it from one place to another. Some people's pockets were indeed bulging, but what about the price? The price was environmental destruction, the depletion of resources, the lamentation of the common people. The smog didn't disperse. In the end, it was a desert. The smog in Huaxia is indeed related to motor vehicles, but it's not because of their emissions. It's because of the endless construction projects behind them. The people can't control the moving of mountains and filling the sea, and the rampaging sludge trucks. The contribution of motor vehicle emissions to the smog may only be a drop in the ocean. Su Yun shook his head and sighed. Qin Wan-er's mood became heavier. The average lifespan of Hua Xia's buildings was only 30 to 50 years. With the consumption of natural resources at this rate, would there still be green mountains in Hua Xia 100 years later? Would there still be green water? Would there still be blue sky and white clouds? No, Qin Wan-er smiled bitterly and said to herself, the blue sky and white clouds are gone now. Su Yun glanced at Qin Wan-er, the green mountains and clear water will be gone soon. I even suspect that the remaining green mountains and clear water can persist until the end of the Monster Soldier King's popular web novel. Why is it like this? Qin Wan-er suddenly realized that compared to the bastards who used the environment to make money, these people who laundered money were not considered a big crime. At least they didn't do something as immoral as destroying the environment. The root cause of the smog is that no one came out to stop some people from wantonly seizing the natural resources. No one can control the rampaging dump trucks, because there is a force behind them, a force that ordinary people can't do anything about. Su Yun shook his head. The original 2 million chips had become 5 million, but Su Yun still couldn't make himself happy. Power plants, heat, steel, cement, petrochemical, chemical, non-ferrous metal smelting. Just thinking about it gave Su Yun a headache. How could it be controlled? Maybe you are right. Motor vehicle emissions are really only a small part of the smog. In the past 2 years, Yanjing has reduced the new car sales quota by nearly 40%, but the smog is still 40% more than before. Qin Wan-er smiled bitterly. Forget it, I'd better not think about it. It's useless to think about it. When Su Yun thought about the white weather, he couldn't help but scold those bastards who wore the hat of environmental experts and professors. If they really had some real knowledge and really tried their best to solve the problem, they wouldn't let the bad environment continue to worsen. Could it be that the entire Hua Xia would become Ghana's Agbog Bloka, Ukraine's Chernobyl, Indonesia's Zitarong River, Zambia's Kabwe, Nigeria's Niger River Delta, Argentina's Matanza River and Riachuelo River Basin, Bangladesh's Hajaribagh? Would those murderers who polluted the environment stop? One must know that the smog not only threatened the health of the people, but also the security of the country. If the people were killed by their own environment, the invaders didn't need to invade, and the country would be abandoned. The youngest patient with lung cancer in Hua Xia was only 8 years old. An 8-year-old girl. Could it be that those bastards who polluted the environment shouldn't be punished? Shouldn't they be shot? Could it be that just because they had the power to control these resources and destroy these resources, no one could touch them? When Su Yun was in the inland, he didn't even dare to take a deep breath. Even with his body, he suspected that he would get lung cancer sooner or later. Su Yun, who was in a bad mood, threw out 1,000,000 chips and lost instantly. However, he was very numb and didn't feel any heartache. His mind wasn't on the gambling table at all. Without waiting for his mood to adjust and his attention to distract, Su Yun threw out another 1,000,000 chips. "Sir, miss, hello." Suddenly, a young man appeared and interrupted Su Yun and Qin Wan-er's thoughts. He smiled and looked at Su Yun. He thought to himself, losing 1,000,000 chips twice in a row in the ordinary hall, but he didn't look depressed at all. He was definitely not an ordinary person. Su Yun raised his head and glanced at the young man. He immediately understood the other party's intention. Su Yun gave Qin Wan-er a look and signaled her. "Look, the stacked guys have come to the door. You're tuning in to the Narrate and Escape YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.